The idea that babies are blank slates suggests that when they are born, they know nothing and have no preferences or built-in behaviors. This view says babies start with a clean state, and everything they learn comes from experience after birth. However, research and observations show this is not entirely true. Babies come into the world with some basic abilities, reflexes, and preferences that help them survive and begin learning immediately. From the moment a baby is born, they show reflexes. These reflexes are automatic responses to certain stimuli. For example, the sucking reflex helps a newborn feed. When something touches the roof of a baby's mouth, they will begin to suck. This reflex does not require learning. It is built into the baby's nervous system. Another common reflex is the grasp reflex. If you put your finger in a baby's palm, they will close their hand around it. These reflexes are essential for survival and show that babies are not blank slates, but have some instincts. Babies also show early preferences. Studies have shown that infants prefer looking at faces over other objects. If you show a newborn a picture of a face and a picture of a random pattern, the baby will spend more time looking at the face. This preference helps babies connect with people and start social learning right away. Babies also prefer certain sounds. For example, newborns can recognize their mother's voice soon after birth. This preference helps them bond and respond to important sounds in their environment. Early cognition is another sign that babies are not blank slates. Even in the first days or weeks, babies can learn and remember simple things. For instance, a baby can learn to associate a particular sound with feeding time. If a caregiver always makes a soft clicking noise before feeding, the baby may begin to expect food after hearing that sound. This shows basic learning and memory. Babies can also recognize patterns, like changes in rhythm or melody, which helps them learn language and other skills over time. Imagine a newborn in a quiet room with a soft light. The baby looks around and quickly turns their head toward a familiar voice. They might reach out their hand and grasp a finger placed in their palm. Later, they start to calm down when they hear a particular sound associated with feeding. These actions happen without being taught. They are built into the baby's brain and body. Babies' reflexes and preferences help caregivers understand their needs. For example, a baby who turns their head toward a sound may be signaling hunger or interest. Caregivers learn to respond, creating a connection that supports the baby's growth and learning. This early interaction is important because it builds trust and teaches the baby about the world. As babies grow, their built-in abilities support new learning. The reflexes fade as voluntary movements develop. For example, the grasp reflex eventually changes into purposeful reaching and holding. Preferences guide babies to pay attention to faces and voices, helping them learn language and social skills. Early cognition grows as babies start to remember people and events, recognize objects, and solve simple problems. One example of early cognition is how babies learn cause and effect. If a baby accidentally shakes a rattle and it makes noise, they begin to understand that their action caused the sound. This simple learning happens quickly and lays the foundation for more complex thinking. Babies also show emotional responses. They cry to signal discomfort or need. They smile in response to familiar faces or voices. These reactions show that babies can feel and respond to their environment, which is different from being a blank slate. Emotions help babies connect with others and begin to build relationships. In summary, babies arrive with more than just empty minds. They have reflexes that protect and feed them. They show preferences that guide their attention to important things like faces and voices. They demonstrate early learning and memory, showing they can understand and interact with the world from the start. These abilities are the foundation for all future growth and learning. Understanding that babies are not blank slates changes how people think about early development. It shows the importance of supporting babies' natural abilities and responding to their signals. When caregivers notice and meet babies' needs, they help build a strong start for the child's life. This perspective also highlights how complex and prepared babies are at birth. Their brains come ready to learn, adapt, and connect. The world they enter is new, but they are not empty vessels waiting to be filled. Instead, they bring a set of tools that guide their first steps into life. By watching how babies react and learn, caregivers and researchers can better understand how human beings develop. Babies' early abilities show that life begins with both nature and nurture working together. Their reflexes and preferences are part of their nature, while experiences after birth shape their learning and growth. This balance means that while experience is important, babies do not start from zero. Their built-in responses give them a head start, helping them survive and thrive in their new environment. Caregivers who recognize and support these abilities help babies reach their full potential as they grow. Through this lens, babies are seen as active learners from day one. They do not wait passively to be taught, but explore and react to their surroundings. This active role in learning is a key part of what makes humans unique. In practical terms, this understanding influences how parents and caregivers care for babies. It encourages paying close attention to babies' signals, knowing that they communicate through reflexes and behaviors. It also supports creating safe, nurturing environments where babies feel secure to explore and learn. In this way, babies' early reflexes, preferences, and cognition are not just biological facts. They are the first steps in a lifelong process of growth, discovery, and connection with the world around them. Many people worry that holding a baby too much will spoil them. They think that if a baby is always picked up or comforted, the baby will become too dependent or demanding. This idea suggests that babies need to learn to be quiet or self-reliant early on. But research and experience show that responsive parenting, which means paying close attention to a baby's needs and responding to them, actually builds a sense of security, not dependency. Babies cannot care for themselves. They rely entirely on adults for food, warmth, comfort, and safety. When a baby cries, it is their way of asking for help. Holding a baby when they cry is a way of answering that call. This act of comfort teaches the baby that the world is a safe place and that their needs will be met. When babies feel safe, they can grow, learn, and explore more confidently as they get older. Imagine a baby who wakes up crying in the night. A parent picks up the baby, holds them close, and soothes them with gentle rocking or a soft voice. The baby stops crying and calms down. Over time, the baby learns that when they need comfort, someone will be there to help. This feeling of safety helps the baby develop trust in people and in their surroundings. Some people worry that if a parent always responds quickly, the baby will become spoiled and cry more to get attention. However, studies show the opposite. Babies who receive consistent, loving care cry less over time. They learn that crying will bring comfort, so they do not need to cry as much to get attention. On the other hand, if a baby's cries are ignored or delayed for long periods, the baby may cry more and feel stressed. This stress can affect the baby's brain and overall development. Holding a baby helps in many ways beyond stopping crying. Physical touch releases hormones like oxytocin, sometimes called the love hormone. Oxytocin helps both the baby and the parent feel calm and connected. This connection strengthens the bond between them, which is important for the baby's emotional health. When babies feel connected, they develop better social skills and handle stress more easily later in life. Responsive parenting also means reading the baby's signals and meeting their needs before things get difficult. For example, a baby might start fussing before full crying begins. If a parent notices this early and offers comfort, the baby might calm down quickly. This early response saves both the baby and parent from more intense crying or frustration. It also teaches the baby that someone understands them, which builds emotional security. Consider a day where a parent notices their baby rubbing their eyes and yawning. The parent picks the baby up and starts a quiet routine for nap time. The baby settles quickly and sleeps well. This kind of attention to small signals is part of responsive parenting. It shows respect for the baby's needs and helps the baby feel safe and cared for. The idea that babies need to learn to self-soothe by being left alone ignores how young babies work. Newborns do not have the brain development or skills to calm themselves for long periods. They depend on adults to help regulate their feelings. Holding, rocking, or gently speaking to a baby are ways adults help babies manage strong emotions. Over time, as the baby grows, they will develop more ability to calm themselves. But in the beginning, adult support is necessary. Some parents might worry that holding a baby too much will create a demanding child who always wants to be held or comforted. But children who grow up with responsive care learn better ways to communicate. They learn to trust that adults will listen and respond to their needs. This trust creates confident children who feel secure trying new things. If a baby is ignored or left to cry for long periods, the baby might become more anxious or have trouble trusting others. This can make children more clingy or fearful later, which is the opposite of the spoiling some fear. Responsive care teaches babies they are important and valued. This foundation helps children develop independence in the future because they have a secure base to explore from. An example can be seen when a toddler falls and hurts themselves. A parent who quickly responds with comfort helps the child feel safe and understood. This care teaches the child how to handle distress and seek help when needed. The child learns that it is okay to rely on others sometimes, which is a healthy part of development. This early experience sets the stage for healthy relationships throughout life. Babies also learn through interaction. When a parent holds and talks to a baby, they support the baby's language development and social skills. Physical closeness encourages eye contact, facial expressions, and listening. These interactions help babies understand emotions and communication. Without this, babies may miss important learning moments. Some cultures hold babies close all day and consider this normal. Babies in these cultures often grow up feeling secure and confident. This shows that holding a baby frequently is a natural part of caregiving and does not cause harm. Instead, it supports the baby's growth in many areas. Of course, parents also need time to rest and care for themselves. Responsive parenting does not mean always holding a baby non-stop. It means being tuned in and responding when the baby needs comfort or care. Parents can use other ways to soothe babies, like gentle talking, soft music, or a calm environment. The key is meeting the baby's needs in a caring way, not ignoring or delaying help. In a practical example, a parent might hold their baby during a car ride to calm them, or place the baby in a safe carrier nearby. The baby feels the parent's presence and touch, which provides comfort. When the baby feels secure, they sleep better and cry less. The parent can also rest or do other tasks nearby, knowing the baby feels safe. Responsive parenting creates a strong emotional bond between parent and child. This bond gives the baby confidence to explore the world. When children feel secure, they develop healthy relationships, emotional control, and independence later on. The care and attention babies receive in their first months and years set the stage for their entire development. The idea that holding a baby too much spoils them is based on misunderstanding how babies grow. Babies need comfort, care, and connection. When parents respond to babies' needs, they build trust and security. This security helps babies become confident, healthy children who can face life's challenges. In summary, responsive parenting is not about spoiling a baby. It is about creating a safe, loving environment where the baby learns they can count on others. This trust supports the baby's emotional health and future independence. Holding and comforting a baby is a natural and important part of parenting, helping babies thrive from their very first days. Many people believe that psychological development stops after adolescence. They think once someone reaches their late teens or early 20s, their emotional and cognitive growth is complete. However, this idea does not match what we know about the human mind and behavior. Emotional and cognitive development continue well into adulthood and old age. People keep learning, changing, and growing throughout their lives. Emotional development involves how people understand, express, and manage their feelings. Cognitive development involves thinking skills such as problem-solving, memory, and decision-making. Both of these areas change across a lifetime. In adolescence, the brain undergoes major changes. Teenagers develop the ability to think more abstractly and consider possibilities beyond the here and now. They start to form their own identities and values. This period is important, but it is not the end of development. In early adulthood, people often face new challenges. They make choices about careers, relationships, and independence. These experiences shape emotional maturity. For example, a person might learn to handle stress better as they face job pressures or raise children. They may also improve their ability to manage emotions like anger or sadness through practice and reflection. Imagine a young adult starting their first full-time job. They might feel overwhelmed at first. Over time, they learn how to cope with challenges, communicate effectively with coworkers, and manage deadlines. This learning is a form of cognitive growth. They develop problem-solving skills and emotional control that they did not have as a teenager. Emotional development also includes gaining empathy and understanding others' feelings. Adults often become better at seeing things from different points of view. For example, a parent might learn to understand their child's behavior more deeply as they spend time together. This ability to connect emotionally continues to develop throughout adulthood. Cognitive development also advances in adulthood. While some mental abilities, like processing speed, may slow slightly with age, other abilities improve. For instance, adults often gain wisdom, which includes better judgment and the ability to see the big picture. Wisdom comes from experience and learning over many years. An older adult might face a complex problem, such as caring for a sick family member or making financial decisions. Their experience helps them approach these problems thoughtfully. They may consider past experiences, weigh options carefully, and find creative solutions. This ability shows cognitive growth that continues into old age. Memory is another area where adults change over time. While some types of memory, like recalling names, might decline, other types improve. For example, adults often get better at remembering meaningful events or facts related to their interests or work. They may also develop strategies to cope with memory challenges, such as writing lists or organizing information. Emotional regulation often improves with age. Older adults tend to focus more on positive experiences and manage negative emotions better. This change helps them maintain well-being and cope with losses or health issues. For example, an older person might choose to spend time with close friends rather than engage in stressful activities, reflecting mature emotional choices. People also continue to develop their sense of identity and purpose in adulthood. Some might explore new careers, hobbies, or relationships. Others may reflect on their lives and make changes to align better with their values. This ongoing process shows that psychological development does not end with adolescence, but evolves over time. Consider someone in their 50s who decides to go back to school or start a new hobby like painting. These activities stimulate the brain and emotions. Learning new skills or expressing creativity can lead to personal growth and satisfaction. Such experiences support emotional health and cognitive function. Even in old age, people can experience growth. They might find new meaning through volunteering, mentoring younger people, or deepening spiritual beliefs. These activities enrich their emotional life and contribute to cognitive engagement. Research shows that staying socially and mentally active helps older adults maintain cognitive abilities and emotional balance. Psychological development is not just about reaching a fixed point. It's a continuous process influenced by life events, relationships, health, and personal choices. Challenges like illness, loss, or retirement can prompt reflection and growth. For example, Someone who loses a spouse might develop new coping skills and find ways to rebuild their social life, showing emotional resilience. People also differ in how they develop. Some may grow rapidly during certain periods and slower during others. Life circumstances like education, work, and social support affect development, but the capacity for change and growth remains throughout life. This ongoing development is supported by changes in the brain. Studies show that the brain remains plastic or capable of change even in old age. New experiences, learning, and social interactions can build new connections in the brain. This plasticity means adults can continue to improve thinking skills and emotional understanding. In practice, this means people can work on personal growth at any age. They can learn new ways to manage stress, improve relationships, or solve problems. They can deepen their understanding of themselves and others. For example, an adult might learn mindfulness techniques to reduce anxiety or take a course in communication skills to improve at work. Therapy and counseling also show that psychological development continues. Adults who seek help for emotional issues often make progress in understanding and changing patterns of thought and behavior. This growth can lead to better emotional health and improved life satisfaction. In relationships, people grow emotionally over time. They learn to communicate better, resolve conflicts, and support each other. Long-term partnerships often involve learning and adapting, which reflects ongoing emotional development. Parents grow as they understand their children's changing needs and personalities. The workplace also offers opportunities for cognitive and emotional development. Adults learn new skills, adapt to new roles, and solve problems regularly. These experiences challenge the brain and support growth. For example, learning to lead a team or manage a project requires new thinking and emotional skills. In social settings, adults develop empathy and social understanding. They may become more tolerant, patient, or skilled at handling different personalities. This social growth helps them build stronger communities and relationships. Across the lifespan, people face transitions that require psychological adaptation. Moving to a new city, changing careers, or dealing with health changes all demand emotional and cognitive adjustment. Successfully navigating these transitions shows ongoing development. Even in later years, people can reflect on their lives and find new goals. They may pass on wisdom to younger generations or find new ways to contribute to society. These actions demonstrate that psychological development remains alive and meaningful. Overall, psychological development is a lifelong journey. Adolescence is a key stage, but it is only one part of a continuous process. Emotional and cognitive growth continue as people face new experiences, challenges, and opportunities throughout their lives. This ongoing development shapes who we are at every age. Many people say that early childhood determines everything about a person. They believe that what happens in the first few years of life sets the path for the rest of one's future. While early childhood is very important, it does not decide everything. Later experiences, relationships, and choices also shape who we become. The first years of life are crucial for development. During this time, the brain grows rapidly, and children learn basic skills like walking, talking, and understanding emotions. Positive early experiences, such as loving care and safe environments, provide a strong foundation for healthy growth. For example, a baby who receives steady attention from caregivers learns to trust others and feel safe. This trust helps the child build relationships later. Imagine a toddler who grows up in a home where people read to them often and respond to their needs. This child may develop language skills early and feel confident exploring the world. Early learning supports future success in school and social life. These first years do matter. However, saying early childhood determines everything ignores what happens after those years. Life is full of changes, challenges, and new chances to learn. Later experiences also have a big impact. People keep growing emotionally, mentally, and socially throughout childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. Take the example of a child who had a difficult start in life. Maybe they experienced neglect or hardship early on. While these early struggles can affect development, they do not close the door to change. If this child later finds a caring teacher, supportive friends, or a mentor, they can make great progress. Positive relationships and experiences after early childhood help the person grow and heal. Consider another case. A child with a loving early environment might face challenges later, like moving to a new town or losing a parent. These events can shape the person's development as much as early years. How a person handles these later experiences can change their path. They may learn resilience, problem-solving, or new social skills that shape their future. Development is a lifelong process. The brain stays flexible and able to learn even after early childhood. New experiences create new connections in the brain. This means people can develop new skills, attitudes, and habits at many stages of life. A teenager who learns to manage emotions well, or an adult who finds a new career, shows that growth continues beyond early years. Social connections play a key role in this ongoing development. Friendships, family, teachers, and partners influence who we become. These relationships help people learn about themselves and others. For example, a person who develops close friendships in high school may learn empathy and cooperation, important skills for adult life. Learning does not stop after early childhood either. School, work, hobbies, and life challenges offer many chances to grow. A person may discover new talents or change their values over time. For instance, an adult might develop patience and understanding through parenting or community work, shaping their personality and outlook. Sometimes, people make major changes in adulthood. They may decide to change habits, pursue education, or repair relationships. These choices can alter life's course significantly. A person who struggled in childhood might later become a teacher, counselor, or leader because of experiences that happened after early childhood. It helps to think about development like a river, rather than a fixed path. Early childhood sets the course, but the river continues flowing and can change direction. Rocks, turns, and new streams join along the way, shaping how the river moves. Later experiences act like these changes, influencing the river of life. Early childhood gives important tools and patterns, but these are not unchangeable. People adapt and respond to new information and relationships. For example, therapy or counseling can help a person understand early challenges and develop healthier ways of thinking and feeling. This shows that later experiences can rewrite some of the early story. The environment matters throughout life. A safe, supportive place encourages growth at any age. A person who moves from a stressful home to a positive school or community can benefit greatly. These new settings provide chances for learning, connection, and healing. Culture and society also shape development beyond early childhood. People learn social rules, values, and roles throughout life. These influences affect identity and behavior. For example, a young adult might explore different beliefs or lifestyles and find what fits them best. This ongoing search is part of human growth. Physical health links to psychological development too. Good nutrition, exercise, and healthcare at any age support brain function and emotional well-being. A person who adopts healthy habits later in life may improve mental clarity and mood, showing that changes after early childhood matter. In families, the way parents, siblings, or partners interact affects development over time. A child who moves into a new family or forms close bonds with grandparents or mentors gains new support. These relationships contribute to emotional growth and coping skills. Workplaces and community groups also influence development. Adults learn teamwork, leadership, and new skills in these settings. Volunteering or joining clubs can bring a sense of purpose and connection, enriching life and supporting psychological growth. In short, Early childhood is important, but it does not decide everything about a person's life. Later experiences, relationships, choices, and environments continue to shape who we are. People have the ability to grow, change, and develop throughout their lives. This ongoing process means that no matter where we start, the journey of becoming ourselves never really ends. Many people believe teenagers are inherently irrational. They think teens act without thinking and cannot control their emotions or make good decisions. While it is true that the teenage brain is still developing, this idea is too simple. Teenagers can be reasonable, thoughtful, and capable of understanding complex ideas. Their brains are not fully mature, but they are far from being completely irrational. During the teenage years, the brain undergoes significant changes. The prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for planning, decision-making, and controlling impulses, continues to develop well into the mid-20s. At the same time, the limbic system, which processes emotions and rewards, is more active in teens. This imbalance can make emotions feel stronger and decision-making harder. But this does not mean teenagers cannot think clearly or make good choices. They often can, especially when given time and support. Imagine a teenager faced with a choice about whether to join a risky activity, like sneaking out at night. Their emotional brain might push them toward excitement and peer approval. But their reasoning brain is also working, weighing the possible consequences, like getting caught or feeling unsafe. If someone talks calmly with the teen, explains risks, and listens to their feelings, the teen can consider all sides and make a thoughtful decision. This shows teens are open to reasoning, even if their emotions are strong. Teenagers often take risks, but risk-taking is a normal part of growing up. It helps them explore their independence and learn from experience. Teens test boundaries to figure out who they are and how the world works. This process may look irrational from the outside, but it serves an important purpose in development. For example, a teen might try driving fast or experiment with new social groups. These actions carry risks, but they also teach lessons about limits and responsibility. Parents or mentors who stay engaged and communicate openly can guide teens through these experiences. When adults respect teens' growing autonomy and provide clear information, teens often respond with better judgment. It is also important to remember that not all teenagers behave the same way. Some show great maturity and self-control, while others struggle more with emotions or decision-making. These differences depend on personality, experience, and environment. A teen who feels supported at home and school is more likely to make thoughtful choices. Communication plays a key role in helping teenagers think clearly. When adults listen without judgment and explain reasons calmly, teens feel respected and understood. This encourages teens to share their thoughts and feelings honestly. For example, a parent who discusses the dangers of drug use without yelling or blaming may have a better chance of influencing their teen's choices than one who reacts harshly. Education also helps teens develop reasoning skills. School teaches critical thinking, problem solving, and understanding consequences. Teens learn to analyze information and make informed decisions. These skills improve as their brains mature. A high school student preparing a research project practices planning and evaluating evidence, skills that show growing cognitive abilities. Peer influence is strong during adolescence, but it can be positive or negative. Teens often look to friends for approval and guidance. If their peer group values thoughtful behavior and healthy choices, teens will likely follow. Conversely, if peers encourage risky behavior, teens might struggle to resist. Supporting teens in finding positive social groups helps their reasoning and emotional health. Emotions can feel intense for teenagers. They may experience mood swings or strong reactions. This is partly due to brain development and hormonal changes. But teens also learn to manage emotions with practice and support. Teaching skills like mindfulness, problem solving, and communication can help teens regulate feelings and respond thoughtfully. consider a teenager who gets angry after an argument with a friend. With guidance, they can learn to take a moment to calm down before reacting. They might think about how to express their feelings clearly or find a way to resolve the conflict peacefully. This shows that teens are capable of emotional regulation and reasoning, even if it takes time. Sometimes adults underestimate teenagers' ability to reason because they expect immediate maturity, but teens often need time to process information and emotions before making decisions. Giving teens space to think and discuss issues supports better choices. For example, a teacher who allows a student to explain their point of view rather than interrupting helps the student develop reasoning skills. Technology and social media add complexity to teenage development. Teens face new challenges in managing online relationships, information, and privacy. These situations require critical thinking and emotional skills. Teens who learn to navigate these challenges thoughtfully are developing important abilities for adulthood. Mental health is another factor in teenage behavior. Some teens struggle with anxiety, depression, or other issues that affect thinking and emotions. Recognizing and supporting mental health needs helps teens develop better control and decision-making. Schools, families, and communities that provide mental health resources create environments where teens can thrive. In all, teenagers are not simply irrational. They are learning to balance strong emotions with developing reasoning skills. Their brains grow and change, and they respond best when adults treat them with respect and understanding. Teens can think deeply, consider consequences, and make thoughtful decisions when given support and time. This view helps change how adults interact with teenagers. Instead of dismissing teen behavior as nonsense or rebellion, adults can see the potential for growth and reason. Patience, clear communication, and guidance create opportunities for teens to develop into thoughtful adults. In real life, many teenagers show remarkable insight and responsibility. Some lead community projects, excel in academics, or care for family members. These examples show that teens are capable of reason and thoughtfulness, even amid the challenges of growing up. Understanding teenage development as a process helps adults support teens better. Recognizing the brain's growth and emotional changes clarifies why teens sometimes act impulsively, but also highlights their ability to learn and improve. This balanced view encourages positive relationships and effective guidance for teenagers. Many people believe that playing classical music to infants boosts their intelligence. This idea became popular with the so-called Mozart effect, which suggested that listening to classical music could make babies smarter. However, research has not found lasting evidence to support this claim. What matters more for a baby's development is the kind of stimulation they receive, not the specific content of music or sounds. Infants' brains grow rapidly during the first years of life. During this time, babies absorb information from their environment. They learn through sights, sounds, touch, and interaction with people. Stimulating experiences that engage a baby's senses and mind support healthy brain development. But this stimulation does not have to come from classical music or any special type of sound. For example, talking to a baby, singing simple songs, reading stories, or playing with toys helps the baby learn language, social skills, and problem solving. These activities provide meaningful stimulation because they involve interaction and attention. A parent who holds their baby and speaks softly encourages the baby's brain to form connections. This kind of direct engagement supports cognitive growth better than just background music. Imagine a parent playing classical music softly in the room while the baby plays alone. The music might be pleasant, but the baby is not actively involved. In this case, the music is unlikely to have a strong effect on the baby's intelligence. The baby learns more from direct experiences, like hearing the parent's voice, exploring objects, or responding to facial expressions. Research has tested whether playing classical music to infants increases intelligence or learning ability. Studies found little or no long-term benefit. Some short-term improvements in mood or attention might happen while listening to music, but these effects do not last or lead to higher intelligence. The key factor is the quality of interaction and stimulation, not the specific type of music. Other types of music or sounds can be just as engaging for babies. For example, lullabies, nursery rhymes, or even everyday sounds like clapping or footsteps capture a baby's attention and help develop hearing and language skills. The important part is that the baby notices and responds to these sounds, not the genre. Stimulation that involves social interaction, like talking or playing games, supports development more strongly than passive listening. When a baby babbles or makes sounds, a parent who replies encourages language growth. This back-and-forth exchange builds communication skills and emotional connection. Play is another crucial source of stimulation. When babies reach for toys, explore textures, or crawl toward objects, they practice motor skills and learn about the world. These activities promote brain development through active engagement. The content of the environment, whether toys, books, or people, is what drives learning, not just background music. It is important to consider the role of attention. Babies learn better when they focus on something meaningful. Music played in the background may not hold a baby's attention the way a parent's voice or a bright toy does. Active attention helps the brain form stronger connections and supports memory and understanding. In a daycare setting, for example, caregivers who talk with children, sing songs that invite participation, and respond to children's interests provide richer stimulation. This kind of interactive environment supports cognitive and social growth more than simply playing music in the background. Parents who want to support their baby's development do well to focus on interaction rather than background sounds. Talking, reading, singing, and playing together create moments that encourage learning. Even simple actions, like naming objects or describing what is happening, help the baby connect words to experiences. It is also useful to remember that every baby is different, may enjoy music and respond by moving or smiling, while others might prefer quiet or more direct interaction. Paying attention to the baby's reactions helps caregivers provide the best support for learning. In short, playing classical music to infants does not boost intelligence on its own. What matters more is the quality of stimulation and interaction the baby receives. Babies grow and learn best when they engage actively with people and their environment. Music can be part of this environment, but it is not a magic tool for raising intelligence. People often say that left-handed people are more creative by default. This idea pops up in conversations, media, and popular culture. It suggests that left-handedness links directly to creative thinking or artistic talent. While there is some truth in the connection, the reality is more complex. The link between being left-handed and creativity is slight and not a rule that applies to everyone. Left-handedness means a person prefers to use their left hand for tasks like writing, eating, or throwing. About 10% of the world's population is left-handed. The majority are right-handed. Scientists have studied how the brain works differently in left and right-handed people, which partly explains why the idea of greater creativity exists. The brain has two halves, or hemispheres, which specialize in different tasks. The left hemisphere typically handles language, logic, and analytical thinking. The right hemisphere manages spatial skills, intuition, and some forms of creativity. In right-handed people, the left hemisphere usually dominates language and fine motor control. In left-handed people, brain organization can be more varied, with more overlap or different connections between hemispheres. Some studies suggest that because left-handed people may have a more balanced or flexible brain setup, they can process information differently. This difference might give an advantage in certain types of creative thinking or problem solving. However, this advantage is small and does not mean all left-handed people are more creative or that right-handed people are less so. Imagine two artists, one left-handed and one right-handed. The left-handed artist might paint with unusual techniques, showing strong creative skills. The right-handed artist might also be highly creative, but express it through sculpture or music. Creativity comes in many forms and depends on many factors beyond which hand a person prefers. Research has not found a direct cause and effect relationship between left-handedness and creativity. Instead, it shows weak correlations, meaning that in some cases, left-handed people score slightly higher on certain creative tasks, but this is not consistent across all studies or all kinds of creativity. Many right-handed people are highly creative, and many left-handed people prefer more logical or practical tasks. Creativity is a broad term that covers many abilities: artistic expression, problem-solving, innovation, and more. Each of these skills involves different parts of the brain and different experiences. Creativity grows through learning, practice, and motivation, not just biology or handedness. For example, a left-handed engineer might excel at finding unique solutions to technical problems, while a right-handed writer might craft beautiful stories. Both show creativity, but in different ways. Their handedness alone does not determine these abilities. Social and cultural factors also affect how people develop creative skills. Encouragement, education, and opportunities shape how creativity emerges. A left-handed child who receives support to explore art or music might develop creative talents, but so can a right-handed child given the same support. Sometimes, left-handedness can even bring challenges that affect development. For instance, many tools and everyday objects are designed for right-handed users. Left-handed people might have to adapt, which can influence their skills and experiences. Overcoming these challenges can foster problem-solving skills, but it is not the same as an inherent boost in creativity. People who study handedness caution against stereotypes, labeling all left-handed people as creative risks, overlooking individual differences and strengths. It also ignores the many ways people of all handedness can be creative. Consider a classroom where students are encouraged to express themselves through drawing, writing, or building projects. Creativity shows up in many forms, and it often surprises teachers which students excel. Some right-handed students may invent clever solutions or write moving poems. Some left-handed students might shine in visual arts or music. Handedness alone cannot predict who will be most creative. In sports and certain activities, left-handedness may offer physical advantages or disadvantages, but these relate more to coordination and competition than to creativity. For example, left-handed baseball players can have an edge pitching because batters are less used to their style. This advantage is different from creative thinking. Overall, creativity depends on many factors. Intelligence, personality, education, practice, and environment all play important roles. Handedness is only one small piece of this complex puzzle. People develop creativity through experiences and effort more than by which hand they favor. This understanding encourages looking beyond simple labels. Whether someone is left or right-handed, they can develop creative skills if they have the chance and motivation. It also reminds us not to assume things about people based on handedness or other traits. In daily life, recognizing that creativity varies greatly helps in education, work, and relationships. Teachers and employers benefit from seeing each person's unique strengths. Supporting creativity means providing opportunities, feedback, and space to explore ideas, no matter a person's handedness. In sum, the idea that left-handed people are naturally more creative comes from some small brain differences and weak research links, but it is not a rule that applies to everyone. Creativity arises from a mix of biology, experience, and effort. Both left and right-handed people can be creative in their own ways. Many people believe that having a learning disability means someone has low intelligence. This idea is wrong and can cause harm. In truth, many individuals with learning disorders have average or even high intelligence. A learning disability affects how a person receives, processes, or expresses information. It does not define how smart they are or how much they can achieve. Learning disabilities come in many forms. Some people have trouble with reading, known as dyslexia. Others may struggle with writing, known as dysgraphia, or with math, known as dyscalculia. These conditions affect specific skills, but do not lower a person's overall thinking ability. A person with dyslexia, for example, may read slowly or make mistakes when reading aloud, but they might be very skilled at solving problems or thinking creatively. Imagine a student named Maya. She has trouble reading and often falls behind in language class. Her teachers at first think she is not trying hard or that she cannot understand the material. But when Maya takes a test that measures general intelligence, she scores well above average. When given the chance to explain answers out loud or use voice-to-text software, she shows deep understanding. Maya has dyslexia, not low intelligence. This kind of misunderstanding happens often. People with learning disabilities may struggle in traditional classrooms that rely heavily on reading and writing. They may receive poor grades or seem distracted. Teachers or parents might assume the child lacks ability. In reality, the child may have strong reasoning skills or deep curiosity, but needs different tools to learn effectively. It is also common for people with learning disabilities to have uneven skills. Someone might write poorly, but speak with great clarity. Another person may have difficulty memorizing facts, but excel in hands-on learning. These patterns are not signs of weakness, but signs that the brain works differently. Intelligence is not one single trait. It includes many types of thinking, such as verbal, spatial, logical, and creative. A learning disability may affect one area while leaving others untouched, or even stronger, in fact. Some people with learning disabilities are gifted. They may show high ability in one area while needing support in another. For example, a child who struggles with spelling might also be able to build complex machines or solve advanced math problems. This profile is called twice exceptional. These children often confuse teachers because their strengths and weaknesses are so different. Without proper support, their talents might go unnoticed. Adults with learning disabilities also face misunderstanding. In the workplace, someone with a writing challenge may be seen as careless or slow. But that same person might contribute original ideas or solve problems others miss. If employers provide accommodations, like allowing voice memos instead of emails, that person may thrive. Recognizing the difference between a skill gap and a thinking gap helps everyone understand what learning disabilities really mean. Testing can help identify a learning disability and also show where a person's strengths lie. A psychologist might use different assessments to measure memory, processing speed, and problem solving. These tests can show that someone has strong reasoning but struggles with reading speed or handwriting. With this information, teachers, parents, and employers can make changes to support learning. Support makes a big difference. When a child with a learning disability gets the help they need, their confidence improves. They can focus on learning rather than hiding their struggles. They begin to believe in their abilities. For example, a student with dysgraphia might use a laptop to type essays instead of writing by hand. This change allows them to show what they know without being held back by handwriting. Learning disabilities are lifelong, but they do not prevent success. Many well-known writers, scientists, and leaders had or have learning disabilities. Albert Einstein struggled with language in childhood. Agatha Christie, one of the most successful authors in history, had dysgraphia and dictated many of her novels. These examples show that having a learning disability does not limit what a person can do. Families play a key role in helping children with learning disabilities. When parents learn how to support their child and work with schools, the child feels less alone. Simple changes like giving extra time on tests or using visual tools can make learning easier. Encouragement matters too. Children who know they are capable are more likely to keep trying, even when learning feels hard. Teachers who understand learning disabilities can change lives. Instead of labeling students as lazy or slow, they can look for ways to reach them. A teacher might let a student speak answers instead of writing them. Another might use pictures, charts, or real-world examples to explain a lesson. These approaches help all students, not just those with learning disabilities. It also helps to teach students about how they learn. When children understand their own brains, they can advocate for what they need. A teenager with dyslexia might say, "I understand the book, but I need to listen to the audiobook instead of reading it." This kind of self-awareness supports learning and independence. In everyday life, people with learning disabilities solve problems in creative ways. They often develop strong memory for spoken words or strong visual skills to work around reading difficulties. They may use tools like speech-to-text apps, calculators, or reminders to stay organized. These strategies show resourcefulness, not weakness. Society is starting to better understand learning disabilities, but some old beliefs still linger. The idea that a learning disability means low intelligence is one of the most harmful. It stops people from seeing the full picture. It puts limits where there should be support. When we stop linking learning disabilities with low intelligence, we open up more possibilities. We begin to see the person, not the label. We create environments where people can learn in the ways that work best for them. We recognize that intelligence comes in many forms and that learning differently is not the same as learning less. Many people believe that more homework leads to better learning. The idea is simple. More practice should mean more progress. But the truth is more complicated. Research shows that the quality of homework matters more than the amount, especially for younger students. A large pile of assignments does not guarantee deeper understanding. In some cases, too much homework can actually hurt learning by causing stress, confusion, or loss of interest. In early grades, children are still building basic skills. They learn best through hands-on activities, play, and guided exploration. When teachers assign long worksheets or repetitive tasks, students may complete them without understanding. A first grader might finish 10 math problems, but if they do not know why the answer is correct, they have not learned the concept. In contrast, a shorter assignment that asks the child to explain their thinking can be more effective. It pushes the student to think, not just repeat steps. Take a second grade classroom as an example. The teacher assigns 20 subtraction problems every night. Some students rush through them, some copy from a friend, and others make the same mistake over and over. The teacher collects the papers but does not have time to give feedback. In this case, the homework takes time but teaches little. Now imagine instead that students are asked to solve 2 problems and explain how they figured them out. The teacher reads the answers, sees who understands, and adjusts the next lesson. That approach uses less time but leads to better learning. Older students can handle more homework, but even for them, the type of assignment matters. High school students benefit from homework that challenges them to apply what they learned, analyze ideas, or connect topics. For example, a short reading followed by questions that require thoughtful answers helps build understanding. In contrast, copying facts from a textbook or answering hundreds of multiple-choice questions may not lead to real learning. Homework also needs to match the student's level. If an assignment is too hard, students get frustrated. If it is too easy, they get bored. The best homework falls in a range where students must think, but can succeed with effort. That sweet spot supports learning without overwhelming them. Time is another important factor. Students have other responsibilities and needs outside of school. They need time to play, rest, be with family, and pursue interests. When homework takes over the evening, students may grow tired of school. They might begin to see learning as a chore, not a curiosity. This is especially true for younger children, who need more unstructured time to explore and develop in a balanced way. Parents often feel pressure about homework. Some worry that if their child does not have enough, they will fall behind. Others spend hours trying to help with difficult tasks. This creates stress at home and can lead to tension between parents and children. When homework is thoughtful and clearly tied to learning goals, parents can support it more easily. They understand the purpose and can see how it helps their child. Teachers also benefit from assigning less but better homework. When they give shorter tasks that require explanation or reflection, they can review them more quickly and use the results to guide teaching. This makes homework a tool, not just a task. Teachers can see where students are struggling and adjust lessons to meet those needs. Feedback is part of what makes homework effective. If students do not get feedback, they may not know if they understood the material. They may repeat mistakes or think they are doing well when they are not. Even simple feedback, like a short comment or a chance to revise work, helps students learn. Without it, homework becomes a guessing game. In some schools, teachers are reducing homework or changing its form. Instead of long assignments, they ask students to read with a parent, reflect on their day, or do a short project at home. These tasks build skills and connect school to home life. They also help students see learning as something that happens everywhere, not just at a desk. Consider a fifth-grade class where the teacher gives a science question once a week and asks students to research at home and present their findings. Students look for information, write a few notes, and prepare to share. This kind of assignment builds research skills, encourages curiosity, and helps students learn to speak clearly. It also allows different kinds of learners to show their strengths. A student who struggles with tests might shine in this format. Technology offers other ways to make homework more useful. Online tools can give instant feedback or let students learn at their own pace. A math app, for example, might show a student how to correct a mistake right away. A reading program might let a child choose from different texts and track their progress. These tools do not replace good teaching, but they can support learning when used well. Still, not all homework has to be academic. Some of the best learning happens through simple life activities. Cooking, helping with errands, reading for pleasure, or exploring nature all build thinking and problem-solving skills. Teachers who encourage these activities show students that learning is part of everyday life. It is also worth noting that homework affects students differently based on their background. Students with strong support at home may complete homework more easily. Those without help may fall behind. This creates gaps that widen over time. When schools give thoughtful homework and offer in-school time to complete it, they create more equal chances for all students to succeed. For students who struggle, too much homework can lead to shame or avoidance. They may stop trying if they feel they always get it wrong. Reducing the amount and focusing on understanding helps build confidence. A small task done well gives a sense of success and leads to more effort next time. Learning is not about how much time a student spends on work. It is about what happens in the mind during that time. A short task that asks a student to think deeply is more valuable than an hour spent copying notes. Homework should build on classroom learning
and fit the student's needs. The belief that more homework means more learning leads to pressure without results. A better approach is to assign meaningful tasks that help students reflect, apply, and build on what they know. Quality over quantity leads to deeper learning, better motivation, and a healthier balance between school and life.
Many people believe that children with ADHD simply outgrow it as they get older. This idea can lead to misunderstanding and a lack of support for teens and adults who still struggle with symptoms. The truth is that while some children with ADHD may see improvements over time, many continue to experience symptoms into adulthood. ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is a neurodevelopmental condition. It affects focus, impulse control, and activity levels. It begins in childhood, but for many, it does not end there. ADHD presents in different ways. Some children are hyperactive and impulsive. They may climb, run, or talk nonstop. Others are more inattentive. They may daydream, lose track of tasks, or struggle to stay organized. Some children show both types of symptoms. Regardless of how it appears, ADHD is more than just being restless or forgetful. It affects daily life, relationships, and performance at school or work. As children grow, their behavior often changes. A young child who cannot sit still may become a teen who talks too much or makes quick decisions without thinking. An impulsive child might grow into an adult who has trouble with time management or money. The outward signs of ADHD might look different, but the core challenges often remain. Consider a boy named Sam, who was diagnosed with ADHD in 2nd grade. He had trouble sitting in his seat, often shouted out in class, and forgot to bring homework. With help from his teacher and doctor, Sam learned to manage some of these behaviors. By high school, he no longer got out of his seat, but he still had trouble finishing assignments and staying focused. As an adult, Sam found work he enjoyed, but he struggled with deadlines and managing his schedule. His symptoms had changed, but they had not disappeared. Research supports this pattern. Studies show that for many children, ADHD does not go away entirely. Estimates suggest that about half of children diagnosed with ADHD still meet the full criteria as adults. Many others continue to have some symptoms that affect their daily lives. These symptoms might not be as obvious as in childhood, but they can still cause problems with work, relationships, or mental health. ADHD in adults can look different from ADHD in children. Adults may not be hyperactive in the same way, but they might feel restless or have trouble relaxing. They may struggle to focus during meetings or forget appointments. Many adults with ADHD describe having a busy brain that jumps from one thought to another. This mental restlessness can make it hard to plan, organize, or complete tasks. Some adults with ADHD were never diagnosed as children. They may have been seen as lazy, disorganized, or careless rather than having a medical condition. As adults, they may seek help after noticing long-term patterns of struggle. A woman might see a specialist after years of difficulty meeting work deadlines or balancing home responsibilities. She may have coped by working late or relying on others, not knowing she had ADHD. Getting a diagnosis can be a turning point. It helps explain past struggles and offers a path forward. Treatment for ADHD does not aim to cure the condition. Instead, it helps manage symptoms and improve functioning. Support may include behavioral therapy, coaching, medication, or changes in environment. For example, a college student with ADHD might benefit from extra time on tests, digital tools for organizing tasks, or a quiet study space. An adult might use reminders, break work into small steps, or work with a therapist to manage time and stress. Support is important across the lifespan. Children need help learning how to manage their behavior and build social skills. Teens need guidance as they face more complex demands, such as changing schedules, harder schoolwork, and peer pressure.
Adults need strategies to manage work and family life. Without support, people with ADHD are at higher risk for school dropout, job loss, or mental health conditions like anxiety or depression. There are also strengths that often come with ADHD. People with ADHD can be creative, energetic, and quick to notice details others miss. Some excel in fast-paced environments or roles that require flexible thinking. With the right support and self-awareness, many people with ADHD find careers and lifestyles that suit them well. Understanding how their brain works helps them build on strengths and manage challenges. It is also important to look at the impact of ADHD on relationships. Children with ADHD may have trouble making or keeping friends. They may interrupt others, miss social cues, or become frustrated easily. Teens may struggle with emotional ups and downs or risk-taking behavior. Adults with ADHD may have trouble communicating, remembering important dates, or managing responsibilities in partnerships. These challenges can cause stress, but they can also be managed with awareness and support. Families and schools play a key role in helping children with ADHD succeed. When adults respond with patience, structure, and clear expectations, children feel supported. Instead of punishing behavior that comes from difficulty focusing or controlling impulses, caregivers can guide children toward better strategies. For example, a teacher might let a student take movement breaks or give verbal reminders to help with transitions. At work, adults with ADHD benefit from understanding employers and tools that support executive function. This might include visual schedules, shared calendars, or flexible workspaces. Some people choose self-employment or creative fields that match their energy and style. Recognizing what works for the individual is key. Peer support and self-advocacy also matter. Connecting with others who have ADHD can reduce shame and build confidence. Learning to speak up for one's needs, whether in school or the workplace, helps build independence. A teenager might tell a teacher they need more time for written assignments. An employee might ask for fewer meetings or written follow-ups to stay on track. These requests are not excuses, but practical ways to work with the brain's needs. Misunderstanding ADHD as something that only affects children leads to missed opportunities. It also makes people feel alone or at fault for things they cannot control. Recognizing that ADHD often continues into adulthood helps people seek help earlier and make choices that support their success. When people know that ADHD is a lifelong condition for many, they can better support those who live with it. This understanding helps shift the focus from blame to problem solving and from shame to acceptance. It also highlights the need for flexible strategies across all stages of life. ADHD does not define a person's worth or limit their potential. It is one part of how they experience the world, and with the right tools, that world can be full of possibility. People often say stress is always bad. It's common to link stress with health problems, burnout, and poor performance. While too much stress can be harmful, not all stress is the same. Some stress helps us stay alert, focused, and motivated. This kind of stress is called eustress. It supports learning, problem solving, and personal growth. The key difference is how the stress feels and how long it lasts. Eustress comes from challenges that feel manageable and meaningful. It pushes us to act but doesn't overwhelm us. Think of the feeling before giving a speech, taking a test, or starting a new job. Your heart might beat faster. Your thoughts sharpen. You feel focused and ready to do your best. That reaction is stress, but in this case, it helps you perform. Imagine a college student preparing for a big exam. The pressure to do well causes stress, but it also drives the student to study hard, organize their notes, and stay on task. Without the stress, the student might feel too relaxed and put off studying. A small amount of stress creates energy and helps the student prepare. This is eustress in action. In the workplace, deadlines often create stress. But when the goal is clear and the deadline is realistic,
This stress can lead to productive results. A designer working on a project with a tight deadline may feel pressure, but that pressure helps focus attention and block distractions. The challenge sparks ideas and drives progress. After the task is done, the designer may feel proud and satisfied. The stress passed, and it supported performance. Eustress can also show up in physical challenges. An athlete training for a race experiences stress on the body and mind. The training is hard, but it builds strength, skill, and confidence. The athlete knows the goal and sees improvement, which helps turn stress into motivation. The body recovers between sessions, and the mind stays engaged. This healthy cycle supports growth. Even in personal life, eustress plays a role. Planning a wedding, moving to a new home, or having a child brings stress. These events involve change and responsibility, but they also bring purpose and excitement. The stress comes with a clear reward. People often say these were some of the most meaningful times in their lives. The stress was real, but it was part of something worthwhile. The difference between helpful and harmful stress depends on control, support, and recovery. Eustress feels manageable. You might be busy or challenged, that you believe you can handle it. You have the tools, skills, or help you need. You also have time to rest afterward. In contrast, harmful stress, often called distress, feels overwhelming. It lasts too long or piles up without relief. It may come from problems with no clear solution. This kind of stress can damage health and mood. A teacher facing a new school year may feel eustress from preparing lessons and meeting new students. The challenge brings energy and focus. But if the teacher has too many responsibilities, not enough time, and little support, the stress may turn into distress. The same situation can shift based on how it is managed. Stress responses involve both the body and the mind. When faced with a challenge, the body releases hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. These increase heart rate and sharpen awareness. This response helps you take action. In short bursts, it helps performance. But if stress continues for too long, the same hormones can harm the body. They may disrupt sleep, weaken the immune system, or affect mood. The goal is not to avoid stress completely, but to keep it in balance. Learning how to manage stress makes a big difference. People who see stress as a challenge, not a threat, often perform better. This mindset helps turn nervous energy into focus. For example, a student who sees a test as a chance to show what they've learned feels more in control than one who sees it as a trap. The body may react the same way, but the experience feels different. Preparation also helps turn stress into growth. A person who practices public speaking, gets feedback, and reflects on progress becomes more confident over time. Each stressful event becomes easier. What once felt overwhelming becomes a skill. This pattern shows how stress, when managed well, leads to improvement. Support from others also changes how stress feels. A person facing a challenge alone may feel pressure and doubt, but with support from friends, mentors, or coworkers, the same challenge becomes easier. Talking through problems, sharing ideas, or just knowing someone understands can turn stress into motivation. Recovery is just as important as effort. Stress, even helpful stress, requires rest afterward. This means taking breaks, sleeping well, and finding time for fun or quiet. Without recovery, even good stress can wear you down. Think of a sprinter who trains hard but never rests. At first, performance improves, but over time, injury or fatigue sets in. The same is true for mental stress. In schools and workplaces, it helps to create environments where challenges are balanced with support and recovery. A student who receives clear guidance, fair deadlines, and feedback will experience stress in a healthy way. A worker who feels trusted, receives recognition, and can take breaks is more likely to stay motivated. It is also important to recognize personal limits. What feels like eustress to one person may feel like distress to another. A challenge that inspires one student may overwhelm another. Teachers, employers, and parents can help by checking in
and adjusting expectations when needed. The goal is to stretch, not snap. Some people may avoid all stress because they fear it is harmful, but this approach can limit growth. Without challenge, skills do not improve. Confidence stays low. People may stop trying new things. Facing manageable stress helps build resilience. Over time, you learn that you can handle more than you thought. Understanding that not all stress is bad helps change how people respond. Instead of avoiding pressure, they can learn to prepare, seek support, and recover. Stress becomes a signal, not a threat. It tells you something matters. When used well, it sharpens focus and builds strength. The goal is not to erase stress, but to use it wisely.
Many people believe that crying is a sign of weakness. They see it as something to hide or feel ashamed of, especially in public or at work. This belief is common in many cultures where emotional control is seen as strength. But crying is not a weakness. It is a normal, healthy way the body responds to strong feelings. It helps release tension, express emotion, and return to a balanced state. Crying is a physical process. When someone cries from emotion, their body releases tears along with hormones and stress-related chemicals. This release helps the body calm down. After crying, people often feel relief or a sense of quiet. This change is not just emotional. The body shifts from a state of tension to one of recovery. Crying in this way works like a pressure valve. It helps regulate mood and reduces the impact of stress. Imagine someone who has had a hard day at work. They held in their frustration through long meetings, tight deadlines, and tense conversations. At home, they feel overwhelmed and begin to cry. Afterward, they feel lighter. The problems are not gone, but they feel more able to handle them. This shift comes from releasing the emotional weight they carried. The tears helped their body and mind reset. Children cry often, and adults usually accept it as part of their development. A child might cry after falling or losing a toy. Caregivers respond with comfort, and the child learns to manage strong feelings. But as children grow, they often hear messages like "stop crying" or "be strong." Over time, they may begin to believe that crying is wrong or shameful. These messages can lead to emotional avoidance. People may stop expressing sadness or frustration and instead hold their feelings inside. Holding in emotion does not make it disappear. Unreleased stress can build up and lead to problems. People who avoid crying may feel tense, irritable, or anxious. They may also have trouble sleeping or concentrating. The body needs ways to let go of tension, and crying is one of those ways. Suppressing emotion may seem like control, but it often leads to more difficulty later. Crying also has social value. It signals to others that someone is in distress or needs help. In safe settings, tears can bring support and understanding. When a friend cries during a conversation, it often deepens the connection. A listener may offer comfort, which helps both people feel closer. These moments show that tears are not a barrier, but a bridge. In some situations, crying feels risky. A person may worry about judgment, especially in professional settings. They might fear being seen as unstable or unfit. But showing emotion does not mean someone lacks control. It means they are human. A teacher who sheds tears while saying goodbye to a graduating class is not weak. Their emotion reflects care and connection. A nurse who cries after losing a patient shows empathy, not failure. In both cases, the tears come from deep feeling and commitment, not from lack of strength. Crying can also happen in private. Many people cry alone when they feel safe to release what they have held in. This quiet moment helps them process feelings they may not yet be ready to share. Crying does not always need an audience to be useful. It is a tool the body uses to restore balance, whether in public or in private. There are also different kinds of tears. Emotional tears are not the same as those caused by gust or cutting onions. Emotional tears contain stress hormones and other chemicals that help regulate mood. These tears are part of how the brain and body respond to strong emotions. They help shift from one emotional state to another. Some people cry easily and often. Others may cry rarely. Both are normal. How often someone cries depends on many factors, including personality, culture, and past experiences. Some people have learned to avoid crying because they were punished or mocked for it. Others were taught to accept tears as natural. Neither response defines someone's strength or value. It is important to understand that crying is not a solution to every problem, but it is a step in coping. It allows the emotional system to reset. After crying, people are often more ready to think clearly, make decisions, or take action. The crying does not fix the situation, but it prepares the person to face it. Think of a person going through grief. They cry often in the early days of loss. Each time, the tears help release part of the pain. Over time, the crying becomes less frequent, and the person starts to re-engage with daily life. The process of mourning often includes tears, and those tears support healing. Without them, grief might stay locked inside, causing more harm over time. In therapy, crying is often a sign of progress. When someone begins to cry, it usually means they are touching something important. The tears mark the moment when words are not enough. Therapists understand that these moments matter. They often wait quietly, letting the person feel without pressure to explain or stop. The tears speak for themselves. There are people who want to cry but cannot. They feel the emotion, but no tears come. This can happen for many reasons. Past trauma, stress, or medical issues can block the tear response. These people may need time or support to reconnect with this form of release. Their emotions are still valid, even without tears. The belief that crying equals weakness hurts everyone. It discourages expression and encourages emotional numbness. When people feel safe to cry, they gain access to a natural way to cope and recover. They show themselves and others that emotion is not shameful. It's a part of being alive. Men, in particular, are often told not to cry. They hear messages that link masculinity with emotional silence. This pressure can lead to anger, withdrawal, or even health problems. Allowing men to cry and express emotion helps challenge harmful stereotypes. It opens the door to better mental health and stronger relationships. Parents and teachers can support this understanding by how they respond to children's tears. Instead of saying, "Stop crying," they can say, "I see you're upset," or "It's okay to feel sad." These simple statements teach children that emotion is not something to hide. It is something to notice and understand. In everyday life, we all face moments that bring tears. A sad film, a painful memory, a joyful event. Each can trigger emotions strong enough to bring tears. These tears are not a flaw. They are the body's honest response to life's intensity. They help us mark what matters and move forward with more clarity. Many people believe that you can always tell what someone is feeling just by looking at their face. They think a smile means happiness, a frown means sadness, or a scowl means anger. While facial expressions can give clues, they do not always tell the full story. Emotions are complex, and people show them in different ways. Culture, context, and personality all play a role in how someone expresses feelings on their face. A facial expression can mean different things in different cultures. In some cultures, people smile to show politeness, not happiness. A person may smile when they feel nervous, uncomfortable, or even embarrassed. In other cultures, people may not smile much in public at all, even when they feel pleased. A smile in one culture may signal joy, while in another, it may mean respect or submission. This makes it hard to know what someone is truly feeling just by their face. For example, in Japan, people often cover strong emotions to keep harmony in social settings. A Japanese person may smile while feeling upset, as a way to avoid conflict or show respect. In contrast, in the United States, open emotional expression is more accepted. Someone feeling the same emotion might frown, cry, or raise their voice. If an American assumes the Japanese person is happy just because they are smiling, they may miss the true meaning. Even within the same culture, individuals express feelings in unique ways. Some people have expressive faces and show emotions openly. Others may have more reserved facial expressions. This does not mean they feel less. It just means they show feelings differently. A calm face can hide strong emotion, and a dramatic face can sometimes reflect only mild feelings. Take two coworkers facing the same stressful deadline. One paces, frowns, and furrows their brow. The other stays still and shows little emotion. Both are stressed, but one shows it on their face, and the other does not. A manager who reads only faces might think the first person is overwhelmed and the second is calm. In truth, both may be under equal pressure. Without asking or listening, it is easy to get the wrong idea. Some people also learn to mask their feelings on purpose. They may hide sadness with a neutral face or cover anger with a smile. This can happen for many reasons. A child may grow up in a family where showing emotion is discouraged. An adult may work in a job where staying calm is expected, like in healthcare or law enforcement. Over time, people learn how to control their faces to fit the situation. This helps them stay safe or do their job, but it makes reading emotion more difficult. In some cases, a person's face may not reflect emotion at all. Medical conditions, like Parkinson's disease, can affect facial movement, making expressions hard to read. Some people are born with reduced facial muscle control. Others may struggle with anxiety or trauma and avoid showing emotions outwardly. Assuming someone is not feeling much because their face looks flat can be misleading and unfair. Even when a person shows a clear expression, it may not mean just one thing. A furrowed brow might mean confusion, anger, or deep thought. Raised eyebrows could mean surprise, interest, or skepticism. A frown could reflect sadness or physical discomfort. Without more context, a single expression does not always explain the full emotional picture. Consider a person watching a sad film. They may frown and tear up, showing clear signs of sadness, but they might also feel touched, thoughtful, or even hopeful. The face shows part of the experience, but the rest depends on the situation and the person's thoughts. Facial expressions do not exist on their own. They are part of a larger web of cues. Voice tone, body posture, and behavior offer important clues too. Someone might say, "I'm fine," with a flat voice and a downcast posture, which tells more than their face alone. A friend who usually makes eye contact may avoid your gaze after a tough conversation. These signs, taken together, help build a fuller picture of how someone feels. People also misread faces when they expect certain emotions. If you think someone should feel angry, you may see anger even if it is not there. This kind of bias affects how people judge expressions. Studies show that people sometimes project their own emotions onto others, especially in moments of conflict or tension. Technology has tried to read emotions using facial recognition. Some systems claim to detect emotion by measuring facial movements, but these systems often miss context and make errors. They may work in simple cases, like recognizing a smile, but struggle with subtle or mixed emotions. Many experts warn against using these tools to make important decisions, like hiring or security screening. Learning to read emotions accurately means going beyond the face. It involves paying attention to what someone says, how they say it, and what is happening around them. Asking questions helps too. Instead of guessing, you can say, "You seem upset. Do you want to talk?" This shows care and gives the other person a chance to share how they really feel. It also helps to know the person. Close friends and family often recognize small signs of emotion that others miss. A partner may notice a shift in your expression that signals something is wrong, even if your face stays mostly neutral. These small changes matter, but they are easiest to notice when you know someone well. Training can help people become better at reading emotion. Therapists, teachers, and crisis workers often learn to notice subtle cues, but even experts know that no single sign, like a facial expression, tells the full story. They listen, observe, and ask to understand more clearly. Emotions can also be complex and layered. A person might feel 2 or 3 emotions at once. A graduate on stage may smile, but also feel fear, relief, and sadness. A parent dropping off a child at school may show pride mixed with anxiety. The face may not show all of these feelings at once, or may shift quickly between them. Looking only at the face can lead to guesses that miss the mark. In relationships, believing that the face says it all can create misunderstandings. One person may think the other is distant, when in fact, they are tired or focused. A partner might expect a big reaction to news and feel disappointed by a calm expression. These reactions can lead to hurt feelings or false beliefs about how much someone cares. Talking and checking in helps prevent these mistakes. Cultural awareness also plays a role in reading emotion. What counts as polite or respectful facial behavior changes from place to place. A person raised to look down when speaking may be seen as shy or dishonest in another culture. A wide smile in one place may seem inappropriate in another. Learning about these differences helps avoid misjudging others. Children learn to read faces early, but they also learn the rules of their culture. Some learn to hide feelings to be polite. Others learn to show emotion freely. These patterns continue into adulthood and shape how people express and interpret feelings. Facial expressions are one part of human communication. They offer clues, but not full answers. Reading emotion well means using more than just the eyes. It means listening to words, watching behavior, and understanding the whole person. The face matters, but it is just one piece of the puzzle. Many people believe that talking about suicide puts the idea into someone's head. They fear that bringing up the subject might push someone toward acting on suicidal thoughts. This belief is understandable, but it is not supported by research or mental health professionals. In truth, open and careful conversation can prevent suicide, not cause it. When someone is struggling, silence can feel like isolation. Talking offers a path to connection, support, and safety. Suicide is often the result of deep pain, not a sudden thought. People who consider suicide usually feel hopeless, alone, or trapped. They may not want to die, but they want the pain to stop. Many are unsure where to turn. In these moments, a chance to speak openly can make a life-saving difference. Asking about suicidal thoughts does not plant an idea. It creates space for truth. Imagine a teenager named Alex who has been acting withdrawn and quiet. Their teacher notices the change and gently asks if something is wrong. Alex shrugs, avoids eye contact, and says nothing. The teacher takes a moment, then says, "Sometimes, when people feel overwhelmed or hopeless, they think about hurting themselves. Has that happened to you?" Alex looks up, surprised, then nods. For the first time, someone has spoken the words out loud. The teacher's question did not introduce a new idea. It gave Alex permission to speak. Research shows that asking someone directly about suicidal thoughts does not increase risk. In fact, many people feel relief when asked. They no longer have to carry the weight alone. Talking can reduce shame and fear, which are often part of suicidal thinking. It also allows others to step in with help, whether through support, therapy, or crisis services. Many people with suicidal thoughts feel like a burden. They believe their problems will only hurt others. When someone asks, listens, and stays present, it challenges that belief. It shows the person they matter. That message can begin to break the cycle of despair. The way the conversation happens does matter. A calm, non-judgmental tone helps the person feel safe. Questions should be direct but gentle. Avoiding vague language is important. Asking, "Are you thinking of hurting yourself?" is clearer than "Are you okay?" Clear questions help people feel understood. It also helps to accept the person's feelings without trying to fix them right away. Someone might say, "I can't take this anymore," or "Nothing helps." The best first response is to listen and say, "That sounds really hard," or "I'm here with you." These simple words create trust. Once the person feels heard, they may be more open to getting help. Friends, teachers, parents, and coworkers are often the first to notice warning signs. Changes in mood, sleep, appetite, or behavior may signal distress. So can withdrawing from friends, giving away belongings, or talking about death. If something feels off, it is better to ask than to stay silent. You do not have to be a therapist to show concern. You just have to be willing to listen. A college roommate, for example, might notice their friend skipping classes and staying in bed all day. The roommate could ignore it, thinking it's none of their business. Or they could say, "You haven't seemed like yourself lately. I'm worried about you. Are you thinking about hurting yourself?" If the answer is yes, they can stay with their friend and help them reach out to a counselor. If the answer is no, the friend still knows someone cares. There are also times when a person denies suicidal thoughts, even though they are struggling. That's okay. Opening the door to conversation can still help. It shows the person that they can come back later if things change. It also helps build trust over time. Some people worry that they won't know what to say or might say the wrong thing. The truth is that presence matters more than perfect words. Just being there, listening, and offering kindness can help someone feel less alone. Silence, on the other hand, can make someone feel invisible or unimportant. In schools, some adults avoid talking about suicide with students because they fear spreading the idea, but silence can be more dangerous than dialogue. Students who are already struggling may feel like they cannot speak up. Others may not recognize signs in their friends or know where to turn. When schools offer honest, age-appropriate education about mental health and suicide, they give students the tools to help themselves and each other. Mental health professionals have long supported open talk as a key part of suicide prevention. Hotlines, crisis teams, and support centers all depend on people feeling able to say, "I'm not okay." Many people who have survived suicide attempts say they just wanted someone to notice and ask. That question, "Are you thinking about suicide?" was a turning point. In a workplace, a manager may notice an employee showing signs of distress. They seem unfocused, tired, and distant. The manager might feel unsure whether to say anything, but silence leaves the employee alone. A simple check-in, "You've seemed down lately. I care about you. Are you feeling overwhelmed?" can open the door. If the employee needs more help, the manager can connect them to resources. Sometimes, people who are not trained in mental health worry that they have to solve the problem themselves. That is not the case. The role of a friend, teacher, or family member is not to give treatment. It is to listen, support, and help the person connect with professional help. Saying, "You're not alone in this," is powerful. Following that with, "Let's find someone who can help," makes the next step possible. There are times when someone is in immediate danger. If a person has a plan to hurt themselves and access to means, they need urgent help. In that case, call emergency services or a crisis line. Stay with the person if you can. Safety comes first. Even then, speaking directly and calmly is part of keeping them safe. There are many resources for people who want to learn how to help. Suicide prevention training teaches how to ask, listen, and guide someone to help. These programs are based on decades of evidence. They show that thoughtful conversations save lives. People do not take their lives because someone asked about suicide. They find hope
because someone did. When we speak openly and with care, we make it easier for people to get help. We show that they are not alone and that their pain is not invisible. Talking about suicide is not dangerous. Silence is. The right words offered at the right time can bring someone back from the edge. Conversation is not the cause of suicide. It is one of the strongest tools we have to prevent it. Many people believe that mental health problems are caused by bad parenting. This idea has been around for a long time. It suggests that if someone struggles with depression, anxiety, or another mental illness, the parents must have done something wrong. This belief can lead to blame, shame, and confusion. It also oversimplifies a complex issue. Mental health problems do not come from one single cause. Genetics, trauma, brain chemistry, and life environment all play important roles. Mental health is shaped by the way the brain and body work together. Some people are born with a higher risk for certain conditions because of their genes. If someone has a parent or close relative with a mental illness, they are more likely to develop one too. This does not mean they will, but the risk is higher. Genes affect how the brain uses chemicals like serotonin and dopamine. These chemicals influence mood, focus, and behavior. A person with a genetic vulnerability may react more strongly to stress or have a harder time bouncing back from setbacks. Brain structure and function also matter. Some people have differences in how parts of their brain connect or how signals travel. These differences can affect emotion, attention, or thinking. For example, people with ADHD often show activity differences in the prefrontal cortex, which helps with focus and decision-making. These changes are not caused by parenting. They are part of how the brain works. Trauma is another key factor. A person who lives through violence, abuse, neglect, or loss can carry deep emotional wounds. Trauma affects the nervous system. It can make people more anxious, withdrawn, or aggressive. A child who sees a parent struggle with addiction or is exposed to community violence may develop symptoms of PTSD, depression, or other issues. Trauma changes how the brain and body respond to the world. These effects are real, even if the trauma was not caused by the parent. Still, not everyone who experiences trauma develops a mental health problem. Resilience, support, and other protective factors can help. A child with a trusted adult in their life may recover more easily than one who is alone. That adult could be a parent, but it might also be a teacher, coach, or relative. The presence of stable, caring relationships can reduce the impact of trauma. The environment someone lives in also plays a role. A stressful home, poverty, discrimination, or lack of access to care can all raise the risk for mental illness. These pressures can make it harder to stay well, especially for people already at risk. For example, a teenager with a family history of depression who also faces bullying at school may struggle more than one who feels accepted and supported. Parenting does shape a child's development, but it is only one piece of the puzzle. Most parents try to do their best. They care about their children and want them to be well. Some parents have their own mental health struggles or were never taught healthy ways to parent. These factors can lead to mistakes, but they do not mean the parent is the cause of the child's illness. Consider a mother whose son is diagnosed with bipolar disorder in his late teens. She raised him with care and structure, helped with homework, and supported his interests. Still, he began to show signs of mood swings and risky behavior. She blamed herself, wondering if she missed something. But doctors explained that bipolar disorder often runs in families and usually appears in adolescence. Her son's condition was not her fault. Blame can prevent families from seeking help. A parent who feels blamed may avoid therapy or ignore warning signs. A child who senses this blame may hide their feelings. This silence makes things worse.
When families stop focusing on blame and start working together, it becomes easier to manage symptoms and find support. Some mental illnesses, like schizophrenia, have strong biological roots. They often appear in young adulthood and involve changes in thinking, perception, or behavior. The causes are not fully understood, but they are linked to both genetic and brain-based factors. Parenting does not cause these conditions, though support from family can improve recovery. Even in cases where parenting was difficult or abusive, the focus should be on healing, not blame. Adults who grew up in harmful homes often benefit from therapy to understand how the past affects them. But blaming parents, especially without understanding their own struggles, can stop progress. It is more helpful to explore what happened and how it shaped current behavior than to label someone as a bad parent. In some families, more than one person struggles with mental health. A child may have anxiety, while a parent lives with depression. The shared experience can make the home more difficult, but it can also build empathy. When both people get support, they often grow stronger together. Treatment can include therapy, medication, support groups, or changes in daily habits. None of these focus on blame. They focus on helping the person understand their mind and body and learn better ways to cope. Families can be part of this healing process. A parent who learns about their child's diagnosis and how to support them becomes a strong ally. Consider a father whose daughter develops an eating disorder. He first thinks it is just a phase or an attempt to get attention. But after learning more, he realizes it is a serious mental illness. He listens to her, joins family sessions, and learns how to avoid comments about food or weight. His support becomes part of her recovery, even though he did not cause the disorder. Some people grow up with loving, stable parents and still develop mental health issues. Others grow up in chaotic homes and never do. There is no single path. Mental health is influenced by many layers: biology, life events, social context, and support. Removing blame helps people see the whole picture. Educating the public about these facts reduces stigma. It encourages people to seek help early, to talk openly, and to support each other. It also helps parents feel less alone when their child struggles. They can focus on being present and learning, not on guilt. Mental illness is complex. It deserves a response rooted in understanding, not judgment. Parents, professionals, and communities all play a role in supporting mental wellness. When we stop blaming and start listening, everyone benefits. Many people believe that once someone has been depressed, they will always be depressed. This belief can make people feel stuck or hopeless. It also discourages others from seeking help. The truth is that many people recover from depression. With time, treatment, and support, they can return to their usual lives and feel well again. Depression is serious, but it is also treatable. It does not define a person forever. Depression affects how someone feels, thinks, and functions. It can cause sadness, tiredness, trouble sleeping, loss of interest in daily activities, or difficulty concentrating. Some people lose their appetite. Others feel worthless or think about death. These symptoms vary from person to person. They can last for weeks or months. Without treatment, they may get worse. But with the right help, most people improve. Many recover fully. Treatment for depression takes different forms. Some people benefit from therapy, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, which helps them understand and change harmful thought patterns. Others use medication that affects brain chemistry and lifts mood. Some use both. Regular routines, exercise, sleep, and supportive relationships also help. What matters is finding what works for each person. Imagine a woman named Sarah who struggles with depression after losing her job. She feels tired, has no motivation, and stops seeing friends. At first, she blames herself and thinks the sadness will never go away. A friend encourages her to see a doctor. She starts therapy, learns coping skills, and sets small goals. Over time, she feels better. She starts applying for jobs and reconnects with people. She is no longer in a depressed state. Her experience was real, but it did not last forever. Some people do have more than one episode of depression in their lifetime, but this does not mean they are always depressed. Many live for long periods without symptoms. Between episodes, they work, raise families, and enjoy life. When depression returns, they may recognize the signs early and seek help quickly. This often leads to faster recovery. Learning from past experience gives people better tools for future challenges. Depression can also be linked to specific events. A teenager might become depressed after a breakup. A man may fall into depression after a divorce or illness. In these cases, treating the symptoms and addressing the cause often leads to full recovery. People learn how to manage stress, process emotions, and rebuild confidence. They may even grow stronger in the process. Sometimes depression happens without a clear cause. A person may wake up one day feeling flat and unmotivated. They may not understand why. In these cases, treatment still works. Therapy helps identify patterns. Medication can correct imbalances in brain chemistry. Support from others helps rebuild connection. Even without a clear cause, recovery is possible. Some people fear that once they have a diagnosis of depression, it will define them forever. They worry others will treat them differently or assume they are fragile. But a diagnosis is not a life sentence. It is a step toward understanding what is happening and getting the right support. Just as someone can recover from a broken bone or infection, people can recover from depression. Consider a college student who becomes depressed under academic pressure. He struggles to get out of bed and starts missing classes. His roommate encourages him to visit the campus counseling center. He begins therapy and meets with an advisor to adjust his schedule. After a few months, his mood improves. He returns to class with better balance. The depression was part of his story, but it did not define him. Recovery does not mean the person never feels sad or tired again. Everyone has bad days, but sadness is not the same as depression. A person who has recovered can still experience life's ups and downs without falling back into a depressive episode. They have new skills, awareness, and support systems that help them cope. It is also important to recognize that not all depression looks the same. Some people appear cheerful in public, but struggle in private. Others may function at work, but feel empty inside. These differences can affect how people experience and recover from depression. There is no single path. What helps one person may not help another. This is why treatment needs to be flexible and personal. Families and friends play an important role in recovery. They can offer support, patience, and encouragement. They can also help recognize when a person is slipping back into old patterns. A spouse might notice changes in sleep or energy. A friend might check in more often. These small actions make a big difference. Workplaces and schools can support recovery too, offering flexible schedules, understanding leave policies, or access to counseling helps people stay engaged. When people feel supported instead of judged, they are more likely to seek help and stay on track. Relapse does not mean failure. Some people may go through more than one period of depression in their lives, but each time they can return to wellness. Each experience teaches something new. A person learns what triggers them, what helps them, and how to ask for support. This knowledge makes recovery faster and stronger the next time. Depression is not a fixed state. It comes and goes like many other health conditions. What matters is that people can and do recover. They return to their routines, their goals, and their relationships. They laugh again. They take joy in small things. They find purpose. The idea that depression lasts forever keeps people stuck. The truth is that healing is not only possible, it is common. Many people live full, meaningful lives after depression. They may still carry the memory of that difficult time, but it does not hold them back. They use their experience to support others or to take better care of themselves. They know that recovery is not about never struggling again. It is about finding your way forward. Many people believe that panic attacks can kill you. The symptoms feel so intense that it's easy to think something is seriously wrong. A panic attack is a sudden wave of fear or discomfort that peaks within minutes. It often comes with physical symptoms that mimic serious health problems. Your heart may pound or skip beats. Your breathing might speed up or feel tight. You may sweat, tremble, or feel detached from your surroundings. Many people report feeling like they're going crazy or that something terrible is about to happen. What makes panic attacks so overwhelming is how fast they come on and how strong they feel. The body's fight or flight system reacts as if you're in danger, even when you're not. This system is meant to protect you. When you face a real threat, like a fast-moving car or a wild animal, your body releases adrenaline to help you act quickly. Your heart pumps faster. Your muscles tense. You breathe harder to get more oxygen. But during a panic attack, this system turns on without a clear cause. The result is a rush of symptoms that feel out of control. Imagine someone named Leah. She's walking through a shopping mall when she suddenly feels lightheaded. Her chest tightens. She can't catch her breath. Her vision blurs and her hands go numb. She clutches a bench, thinking she might die. A passerby calls for help, and an ambulance takes her to the hospital. After tests, the doctor says her heart is healthy. What she experienced was a panic attack. Leah's reaction is common. Many people go to the emergency room during a panic attack, convinced it's something fatal. But while the symptoms feel severe, they do not cause death. Panic attacks do not stop the heart. They do not block your airway. They do not make your lungs collapse or your brain shut down. The fear they cause is real, but the danger is not. The key to understanding panic attacks is knowing how the brain and body respond to fear. The amygdala, a part of the brain that helps detect threats, sends a signal that something is wrong. The body reacts quickly, but sometimes the amygdala misfires. It can trigger this response even in safe settings. This can happen due to past trauma, high stress, or a genetic tendency toward anxiety. Some people experience a panic attack only once. Others have them more often, especially if they worry about having another one. This fear of panic attacks can lead to panic disorder, where the attacks become a regular part of life. People with panic disorder may avoid places or situations where they fear an attack might happen. Isolation or limited daily activity. Treatment helps. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is one of the most effective approaches. It teaches people to understand their panic symptoms and respond to them differently. For example, if your heart races, you learn that it's not a heart attack. It's just anxiety. Over time, this knowledge weakens the fear response. You can also learn breathing techniques and relaxation skills to calm your body during an attack. Medication can also help in some cases. Doctors may prescribe antidepressants or anti-anxiety drugs to reduce the number or severity of attacks. These medicines work best when combined with therapy or lifestyle changes. Reducing caffeine, getting regular sleep, and staying active can also lower the chances of panic attacks. One important step is learning not to fear the symptoms. During an attack, remind yourself that what you're feeling, though scary, is not harmful. Your heart is beating fast, but it's strong. You're breathing quickly. These reminders help you ride out the wave of panic until it passes. Panic attacks usually last between 5 and 20 minutes. The peak comes quickly, then the symptoms slowly fade. During this time, it helps to focus on your senses. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice 5 things you can see. Take slow, steady breaths.
These grounding steps help shift attention away from the fear. People often ask whether a panic attack can turn into something worse. The answer is no. It will not cause a heart attack, stroke, or seizure. But it can be hard to tell the difference between panic and a medical emergency. If you're unsure, it's okay to get checked. Over time, you'll learn to recognize the signs and feel more confident in handling them. It also helps to talk about what you're experiencing. Many people hide panic attacks because they feel ashamed. They may think others will judge them or not believe them. But panic attacks are common. Millions of people experience them. Talking to a doctor, therapist, or friend helps break the silence and reduce fear. Parents and teachers can support young people who have panic attacks by staying calm and offering reassurance. Instead of saying, "Just relax," try, "I'm here with you. You're safe, let's breathe together." Children and teens need to know that the symptoms are not dangerous and that they're not alone. At work, someone might experience a panic attack during a presentation or meeting. Stepping away for a few minutes to breathe and regroup can help. Over time, with the right support, most people return to daily activities without fear. They learn how to manage symptoms and reduce the chance of future attacks. People who have had panic attacks often say they now understand their bodies better. They've learned what triggers anxiety and how to respond. They become more aware of how stress affects them and how to care for their mental health. What once felt like a threat becomes something they can face. Panic attacks are intense, but they are not fatal. They are part of how the body reacts to stress or fear. With knowledge, support, and practice, people learn how to manage them. They can return to the places and activities they once avoided. They can build confidence again. The fear feels real, but it does not have to control your life. Many people believe that obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD, is just about being clean or neat. They imagine someone who organizes their closet by color or keeps their kitchen spotless. They might even say, "I'm so OCD," because they like things a certain way. But OCD is not about preferences or habits. It is a mental health condition marked by unwanted thoughts and repeated behaviors that are hard to control. These thoughts and actions cause distress, take up time, and often interfere with daily life. OCD has two main parts: obsessions and compulsions. Obsessions are unwanted thoughts, images, or urges that keep coming back. They are not just worries or concerns. They feel intrusive and out of place. People with OCD do not want these thoughts. They try to push them away, but the thoughts return. Compulsions are actions people feel driven to do in response to the obsessions. These actions can be physical, like washing hands or checking a door, or mental, like counting or repeating words silently. The goal is to reduce fear or prevent something bad from happening, even if the person knows it does not make sense. Take the example of someone named Jason. He has intrusive thoughts that he might hurt someone, even though he never would. These thoughts scare him. He starts avoiding knives and sharp objects. He also begins repeating phrases in his head to cancel out the bad thoughts. He spends hours each day doing this. It affects his job and his sleep. Jason is not worried about being neat. He is trying to stop a thought he doesn't want and cannot control. This is OCD. Another person, Maria, checks the lock on her front door. She does not just check once before leaving. She checks 10, 20, or 30 times. Each time she walks away, she doubts herself and fears the door is still unlocked. She is afraid that if someone breaks in, it will be her fault. Her morning routine, which should take 10 minutes, now takes over an hour. She is often late to work. She knows the fear is unreasonable, but the doubt and guilt are too strong. This is also OCD. Some people with OCD do focus on cleaning or order, but it is not because they like things tidy. It's because they feel driven by fear.
For example, someone may wash their hands until the skin cracks and bleeds, not because they enjoy being clean, but because they fear germs will hurt them or others. Or someone may arrange objects in a specific way to prevent harm, not because it looks nice, but because something feels wrong if they don't. The cleaning or arranging is not about preference. It is about trying to get rid of discomfort, fear, or anxiety caused by an obsession. People with OCD often know their thoughts and behaviors are excessive. This sets OCD apart from other conditions. Jason knows he is not dangerous. Maria knows her door is locked, but knowing does not stop the anxiety or the urge to repeat the behavior. That is why OCD is so hard to live with. The person may spend hours each day on rituals they don't want to do. They may feel ashamed, isolated, or exhausted. OCD can affect anyone, children, teens, and adults. It does not reflect weakness or personality. It is a brain-based condition. Researchers believe OCD involves differences in how certain brain circuits process information. These circuits are linked to decision-making, threat detection, and habit formation. OCD also seems to run in families, though not everyone with a family history will develop it. Treatment helps. Cognitive behavioral therapy, especially a type called exposure and response prevention, ERP, is the most effective approach. In ERP, a person learns to face their feared thoughts without doing the usual ritual. Over time, their anxiety goes down, and they learn they can tolerate discomfort without giving in to the compulsion. Medication, such as selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, can also reduce symptoms for some people. Support from family, friends, and therapists makes a big difference. It is also important to recognize what OCD is not. It is not a personality quirk. It is not the same as liking order, being careful, or wanting things to be clean. Someone who enjoys organizing their desk or color-coding their closet may be tidy, but they do not have OCD unless they experience obsessions and compulsions that cause distress and interfere with life. Using the term lightly can hurt those who actually live with the condition. OCD can appear in many forms. Some people worry about contamination, like germs or chemicals. Others fear harm will come to someone they love. Some fear they will act on violent, sexual, or blasphemous thoughts. Others are consumed by questions like, what if I'm a bad person? Or what if I made a mistake? Some people with OCD need to confess, seek reassurance, or repeat prayers to feel better. Each of these patterns follows the same cycle. An unwanted thought leads to fear, which leads to a ritual or action meant to stop the fear. The condition often goes unnoticed or misdiagnosed. People with OCD may hide their symptoms or believe they are the only ones thinking this way. They may go years without getting help. This is especially true for people whose obsessions involve taboo topics, like violence or sex. They may fear judgment or punishment, even though the thoughts are unwanted and do not reflect their character. With the right care, people with OCD can lead full and meaningful lives. Therapy helps reduce the time spent on rituals. Medication can quiet the anxiety. Education helps people understand they are not alone and not at fault. Friends and family can learn to offer support without feeding the compulsions. It is also important to address the shame that often comes with OCD. Knowing that the thoughts are part of the condition, not a reflection of who someone is, helps reduce guilt and fear. OCD is not about being neat. It is about a brain that gets stuck on certain fears and tries to quiet them with actions that feel necessary, even when they make no sense. These fears and rituals can involve anything, not just germs or order. Understanding this helps remove the myths that surround OCD and makes room for better support, treatment, and compassion. Many people believe that eating disorders only affect women. This idea shows up in the media, in conversations, and even in some healthcare settings. Most stories about anorexia or bulimia focus on young, thin girls. As a result, men and non-binary people who live with eating disorders often go unnoticed. They may feel alone, misunderstood, or afraid to ask for help. But eating disorders do not care about gender. Anyone can experience them. An eating disorder is a serious mental health condition. It involves harmful thoughts and behaviors related to food, eating, weight, or body image. These behaviors can include strict dieting, binge eating, purging, over-exercising, or avoiding food entirely. The most common types include anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorder. All of these can affect people of any gender. The belief that only women get eating disorders leads to problems. Men and non-binary people may not recognize the signs in themselves. They may think their symptoms are something else, like poor willpower, high discipline, or just stress. If they do seek help, they might not be taken seriously. Some doctors, therapists, or even family members may overlook their struggles or assume the issue is something else. Take the case of a teenage boy named Daniel. He starts to skip meals to lose weight for wrestling. At first, his coach praises his discipline. Over time, Daniel begins to obsess over calories, weigh himself often, and feel guilty when he eats. He hides these behaviors and grows more isolated. His parents think he's just focused on sports. When he finally tells his doctor, the doctor says boys don't usually get eating disorders. Daniel leaves without support, feeling confused and ashamed. This kind of response is not uncommon. It reflects a bias that prevents people from getting help. Yet research shows that up to 1 in 3 people with an eating disorder is male. Non-binary and transgender individuals are also at higher risk, often due to body image struggles, discrimination, or trauma. These individuals may face additional barriers when trying to find treatment that feels safe and respectful. Social pressure plays a role in how eating disorders show up. For women, the focus may be on being thin. For men, it may be about muscle, weight control, or being lean. A man might not try to be skinny, but he might push himself to follow strict food rules or exercise routines to build muscle or reduce fat. If he fails to meet these goals, he might feel guilt, shame, or self-hate. These feelings can drive the same cycle of control, anxiety, and disordered behavior. Consider a non-binary college student named Jordan. They feel out of place in their own body and are unsure how to express themselves. They start eating less to feel more in control. Soon, food becomes a way to cope with stress, confusion, and identity struggles. Jordan feels pressure to look right to others, but nothing feels right to them. They want help, but worry that a treatment center won't understand their identity. So they stay silent, hoping the problem will go away. Silence makes eating disorders more dangerous. Without treatment, symptoms often get worse. Malnutrition affects the body and brain. It can cause fatigue, low mood, and difficulty thinking clearly. In severe cases, it can damage the heart, bones, and organs. Eating disorders also carry a high risk of suicide. Early help saves lives, but silence delays help. Treatment works best when it sees the whole person. That means looking past gender stereotypes and listening to each individual's experience. For men, that may include exploring how masculinity shapes their view of food, exercise, or body image. For non-binary people, it may mean working through body dysphoria or past trauma. In all cases, it means offering respect, safety, and honest care. Therapists, doctors, and dietitians must learn to spot eating disorders in people of all genders. That means asking the right questions and listening without judgment. A young man who trains for marathons but avoids food may be struggling. A non-binary teen who wears baggy clothes and never eats in public may be hiding disordered behavior. These signs can be missed if a provider assumes only thin girls have eating disorders. Families and schools can help by challenging narrow views of who gets sick. When health classes only talk about girls and thinness, they miss a large part of the story. When parents ignore signs in their sons or assume a gender-diverse child is just being difficult, they lose a chance to support early recovery. Speaking openly, using inclusive language, and noticing warning signs help create space for everyone to get help. Peer support also matters. When people share their experiences, it breaks down myths. A college student who says, "I'm a guy and I struggled with bulimia," gives someone else permission to say, "Me too." A non-binary adult who shares how they found care that respected their identity may help others believe it's possible. These stories challenge the false idea that eating disorders have one face or one voice. Online spaces can be both harmful and helpful. Some social media content fuels disordered thinking. It glorifies thinness, dieting, or extreme fitness. Other spaces offer education, support, and connection. The difference lies in what messages people absorb and how they relate to their bodies. Promoting body acceptance, flexible thinking, and self-care helps push back against the rigid standards that often feed eating disorders. Recovery is not easy, but it is possible. It means facing the thoughts that drive harmful behavior. It means learning to eat in a balanced way, handle emotions, and connect with others. For someone who has felt invisible because of their gender, recovery also means finding their voice. It means being seen, heard, and respected. Alex, the trans man in his 20s, spent years hiding his eating disorder. He believed it was something only girls dealt with. He avoided treatment because he didn't think anyone would understand. When he finally found a therapist who respected his identity and listened without judgment, he began to heal. He says the hardest part wasn't eating again. It was Many people believe that eating disorders only affect women. This idea shows up in the media, in conversations, and even in some healthcare settings. Most stories about anorexia or bulimia focus on young, thin girls. As a result, men and non-binary people who live with eating disorders often go unnoticed. They may feel alone, misunderstood, or afraid to ask for help. But eating disorders do not care about gender. Anyone can experience them. An eating disorder is a serious mental health condition. It involves harmful thoughts and behaviors. Many people believe that therapists will fix their problems for them. This idea shows up in casual conversations, TV shows, and even in how some people approach their first session. They expect the therapist to give direct advice, tell them what to do, or quickly solve their issues. But therapy does not work that way. A therapist is not there to fix your life. They are there to help you work through your own process. Therapy is not advice giving. It is a space to explore, understand, and move through your challenges with guidance, not solutions handed to you. A therapist helps by listening closely, asking questions, and offering tools. They reflect what they hear. They notice patterns. They challenge your thinking gently. These things help you make your own connections and decisions. When people expect a therapist to take control or give answers, they often feel frustrated when that doesn't happen. But the goal of therapy is not to remove the hard parts of life for you. It is to help you face them with more awareness and support. Imagine someone named Jordan. He comes to therapy feeling stuck in his career. He expects the therapist to tell him whether to change jobs. He lays out the pros and cons. He asks directly, "What should I do?" But the therapist does not give a simple answer. Instead, she asks, "What matters most to you in this decision?" Jordan hesitates. He has not thought about what he values, only what he fears. Over several sessions, he talks about how he defines success, what brings him energy, and what makes him feel trapped. He begins to see that his struggle is not just about a job. It's about identity, self-worth, and fear of failure. He leaves therapy not with a yes or no answer, but with a clearer sense of what matters and how to choose in line with that. This kind of process can be slow and sometimes uncomfortable. People often come to therapy when they feel lost,
overwhelmed, or in pain. It makes sense to want relief fast. But therapy is not like hiring a mechanic or an expert who steps in and takes over. The work happens between you and the therapist, not to you. You are the one who has to speak, reflect, and face what comes up. Therapists may offer strategies like breathing techniques or journaling exercises. They may suggest ways to manage anxiety or explain how trauma affects the brain. But even these tools are not solutions on their own. They are options you explore together. Some work for one person, but not another. The therapist does not hand out answers like a manual. They help you figure out what fits you. Sometimes, people want a therapist to validate a choice they've already made. For example, someone in a rocky relationship might come in hoping the therapist will say, "You should leave." But instead, the therapist might say, "What would it mean to stay? What would it mean to go?" This response does not mean the therapist doesn't care. It means they want you to be the one who decides, because the choice belongs to you. They help you see the different parts of the situation, so that your decision comes from a deeper place. Therapists also avoid giving direct advice because people need to feel ownership over their choices. If a therapist tells someone what to do and it goes badly, the person might feel even more helpless. But if the therapist helps the person explore their options and the person chooses a path, then whatever happens, they are more prepared to learn and adjust. The process builds self-trust. It's also important to know that therapy is not always about solving one clear issue. Sometimes people don't even know why they feel bad. They just know something is off. A therapist helps them make sense of their thoughts, behaviors, and feelings. This often involves going back into past experiences and looking at how early patterns show up today. A therapist might notice that a client always downplays their needs. They might say, "I wonder where you learned that it's not okay to ask for support." That kind of question opens a door. The client may begin to remember times in childhood when asking for help led to rejection or shame. Suddenly, the present behavior makes more sense. The therapist has not fixed anything, but they've helped the person see the roots of the struggle. Therapists also support people in building emotional tolerance. This means learning to stay present with hard feelings instead of avoiding them. A therapist won't always try to make the sadness or anger go away. Instead, they might say, "Let's stay with this feeling a little longer. What is it trying to tell you?" Many people are surprised to find that simply naming a feeling or sitting with it makes it less powerful. Again, the therapist does not remove the emotion. They help you learn how to live with it and learn from it. For some people, the idea that a therapist won't give direct answers is frustrating. But over time, many come to see the value of this approach. They stop looking for someone to fix them and start seeing themselves as capable of doing the work. The therapist becomes a partner, not a fixer. Think of therapy like learning to swim. A swim instructor doesn't swim for you. They don't just give you a manual and walk away. They're in the water with you. They watch your form. They show you how to breathe. They help you feel safe enough to let go of the edge. But you're the one who has to move. You're the one who learns how to float. The same is true in therapy. The therapist holds the space, offers support, and helps you notice what's happening. But the growth is yours. That's why therapy can be so powerful. You learn that you don't need someone to solve things for you. You need someone to walk with you while you learn to solve them yourself. This does not mean that therapists are passive or distant. They are active listeners, trained observers, and skilled communicators. They care deeply, but they also know that lasting change happens when it comes from within you. Their job is not to fix your life. It is to help you face it, understand it, and move through it with more clarity and strength. People often say, "Seeing is believing." The phrase suggests that what we see with our eyes must be true. It sounds simple. If something appears in front of us, we believe it exists or that it happened. But vision is not just about the eyes. What we see is shaped by the brain. Perception is a process. The brain takes in raw visual data, interprets it,
and fills in gaps. This means what we see is not always what is actually there. Optical illusions, memory errors, and personal bias all show that seeing is not believing in the way people often think. The brain tries to make sense of limited or unclear information. It wants to create a picture that feels complete. When the eye sends signals to the brain, those signals do not arrive with clear labels. The brain compares what it receives to past experience. It guesses what is most likely and fills in missing parts. This helps us make sense of the world quickly, but it also leads to errors. Optical illusions offer clear proof. One well-known illusion shows two lines of the same length. One has arrow tips pointing inward. The other has arrow tips pointing outward. Most people say the line with outward pointing arrows looks longer, but it is not. If you measure both lines, they are the same. The brain has been tricked. It made a judgment based on shapes, not actual length. The illusion works on most people, even when they know it's a trick. Another example is the checker shadow illusion. It shows a checkerboard with a shadow cast over it. Two squares, one in shadow, one in light, appear to be different shades. In fact, they are the same color. The brain sees one square in shadow and assumes it must be lighter than it looks. It corrects for the shadow without asking us. This correction happens automatically. We cannot switch it off. These illusions do not just affect simple images. They happen in daily life. At sunset, the moon often looks huge on the horizon. Later, high in the sky, it appears smaller. But the moon has not changed size. It only looks bigger near the horizon because the brain compares it to nearby objects, like trees or buildings. The size illusion fades when we isolate the moon from its surroundings. Again, perception is shaped by context, not by the object alone. The brain also fills in gaps in what we see. Our field of vision has a blind spot where the optic nerve connects to the retina. In that spot, we receive no visual input, but we do not see a black hole in our vision. The brain fills in the area using nearby colors and shapes. We are not aware of it, but part of our vision is made up by the brain. Personal bias shapes what we notice and what we miss. Expectations guide perception. If someone tells you that a person in a video is angry, you may notice signs of anger in their face or voice, even if those signs are not there. You are not lying or imagining things. Your brain is choosing which details to focus on based on a suggestion. This is called confirmation bias. Memory also plays a role. We think of memories as mental photographs, but they are not exact records. Each time we recall a memory, the brain reconstructs it. Details can change. Other information can slip in. People can feel certain about things that never happened. In one study, researchers showed people fake images of events, like a hot air balloon ride, and asked them to describe them. Many participants created detailed stories around events that never occurred. The visual evidence shaped their belief. Eyewitness accounts are another example. Courts often rely on what people say they saw, but research shows that eyewitness memory is fragile. Lighting, stress, time, and suggestion all affect recall. Two people may witness the same event and remember it differently. A witness may even believe they saw something that was only suggested later. Belief feels strong, but it is not the same as accuracy. The brain also uses shortcuts to process large amounts of information. These shortcuts, called heuristics, help us decide quickly, but they can lead to visual errors. One example is change blindness. When a person's view is briefly interrupted by a blink, a cut in a film, or a shift in focus, they often miss big changes. In an experiment, people watched a video where one person was talking. The camera cut briefly to the other speaker, then back. In that time, the first speaker's shirt had changed color. Many viewers did not notice.
Their brain did not expect a change, so it ignored the difference. Attention affects perception. We see more of what we pay attention to. When focused on a task, people often miss other things in plain sight. In a well-known study, viewers watched a video of people passing a basketball and were asked to count the passes. Most did not notice a person in a gorilla suit walk across the screen. The image was there, but the brain ignored it because attention was elsewhere. Cultural background also influences what we see. People from different parts of the world focus on different details in the same scene. In one study, Western participants focused more on the central object in an image, while East Asian participants paid more attention to background details. Perception is shaped by experience, not just by vision. Even strong emotion can change what we see. When scared, people often see threats more quickly, even when they are not present. A shadow in a dark room may look like a figure. A sudden sound may seem like a sign of danger. The brain is acting to protect us, but it is not always correct. These examples show that vision is not simple. We do not record the world like a camera. Instead, we build our experience from light, context, memory, and expectations. Most of the time, this system works well. It helps us recognize faces, move through space, and make quick decisions. But it is not perfect. When we trust sight alone, we risk errors. Understanding that perception is constructed helps us question what we see. It reminds us to be cautious when judging what's real or true based only on visual input. It also shows the value of second opinions, clear evidence, and careful thought. Seeing may feel like believing, but it is not always knowing.
Many people believe lie detectors can tell if someone is lying. They picture a machine that reads your mind, finds the truth, and exposes lies with science. In movies and television, polygraph tests often play this role, but in real life, polygraphs do not detect lies. They measure arousal, physical signs like heart rate, breathing, and sweat. These signs may increase when someone lies, but they also rise for many other reasons. Fear, anxiety, confusion, or even just being questioned can all trigger the same response. Because of this, polygraph results are unreliable and often not allowed as evidence in court. A polygraph machine tracks three main signals: how fast you breathe, how much you sweat, and how quickly your heart beats. These are basic stress responses. When you feel pressure or fear, your body reacts. The idea behind the polygraph is simple. If someone lies, they feel guilt or fear, and that triggers a physical response. The examiner asks questions and watches the readings. If the signs of arousal spike during certain answers, the examiner may say the person is lying. But this system has a major flaw. People show these same physical signs even when they tell the truth. A person who feels nervous about being accused may sweat and breathe faster even if they answer honestly. Someone who fears authority or is prone to anxiety may fail the test without ever lying. At the same time, a person who lies calmly, like a practiced liar or someone with certain personality traits, may pass the test easily. The machine cannot tell the difference between guilt and nervousness, or between truth and calm deception. Consider a man named Tom who is applying for a government job. As part of the process, he takes a polygraph test. He has nothing to hide, but he worries about being misunderstood. During the test, his heart races and his palms sweat, especially when asked about past drug use. He answers truthfully that he never used illegal drugs, but the machine shows spikes in arousal. The examiner concludes that Tom is being deceptive. He does not get the job. In this case, the machine punished anxiety, not dishonesty. Now consider someone like Mark. He has lied many times in his life and knows how to stay calm under pressure. During the same test, he tells several lies, including one about stolen property. But his physical signs stay steady. He has trained himself to remain still and control his breathing. The machine shows no spikes. The examiner finds no signs of deception. In this case, the polygraph fails to catch a lie because the liar does not feel stress. These two examples show why courts often reject polygraph evidence. In most legal systems, evidence must meet a high standard. It must be reliable and based on sound science. Polygraph results fail both tests. Studies have shown high rates of false positives, where honest people are labeled as liars, and false negatives, where liars pass the test. This inconsistency makes polygraphs a poor tool for serious decisions. The American Psychological Association has stated that there is little evidence that polygraphs can detect lies accurately. They warn that the machine responds to emotions, not facts. Other scientific groups agree. Despite these warnings, polygraphs are still used in some government settings, job screenings, and criminal investigations. People often believe in them because they look scientific. Wires, screens, and charts make the process seem precise. But appearance does not equal accuracy. The way the test is given also matters. The examiner chooses the questions and interprets the data. This introduces bias. If the examiner believes the subject is guilty, they may see deception in the charts even when none exists. Some examiners ask control questions, like, "Have you ever lied to someone?" to compare with specific questions. But this method assumes people react the same way to every type of lie, which is not true. Even trained examiners can't remove all personal judgment from the process. The test's outcome often depends on how the examiner interprets the signals. One examiner may see a response as normal, while another may label it as deceptive. This makes the results even less reliable. Some people try to beat the test using countermeasures. They might bite their tongue, move their toes, or control their breathing during control questions. These small actions can change the physical signals the machine reads. By creating false spikes during harmless questions, the person can make real answers look normal. This trick can fool the test. It also shows how easy it is to manipulate a system that relies only on physical signs. Polygraphs are often used in investigations as a tool to pressure suspects. Police may tell someone they failed the test in order to get a confession, even if the results are unclear. This tactic may work, but it also risks getting false confessions. A scared person might admit to something they didn't do, just to escape the pressure. In hiring, polygraphs may be used to screen candidates for sensitive jobs. The idea is to weed out dishonest people. But again, the test may reject honest candidates and let dishonest ones through. When used this way, polygraphs do not make systems safer. They just add uncertainty. There are better ways to assess honesty. Careful interviews, background checks, and evidence-based investigations provide more useful information. In therapy or counseling, building trust helps people open up more than a machine ever could. In court, cross-examination, documentation, and expert testimony offer stronger support for truth. Some defenders of polygraphs argue that they can be useful when combined with other tools. In some cases, a failed polygraph might prompt more investigation, but even then, it should not be the only reason for action. The risk of error is too high. A machine that can be fooled by nerves or calm lying should not guide major decisions. People want certainty, especially in matters of crime or trust. The idea of a lie detector appeals to that need. But science must guide us, not wishful thinking. The evidence shows that polygraphs do not detect lies. They detect stress. That stress can come from many places. The machine does not know the difference. Trusting polygraphs too much can cause real harm. People can lose jobs, be denied benefits, or face unfair suspicion. When courts reject this tool, they are not being soft on crime. They are recognizing the limits of the method. A system that values fairness must be based on facts, not on flawed machines. Polygraphs may look like they work, but looks are not enough. A heart that beats fast, hands that sweat, and shallow breathing do not prove someone is lying. They prove only that the person is human. Many people believe that schizophrenia means having split personalities. This idea is widespread in movies, television, and everyday conversations. Someone might say, He's acting like he has a split personality. He must be schizophrenic. But this belief is wrong. Schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder, DID, are two separate mental health conditions. They involve different symptoms, causes, and treatments. Using the term split personality for schizophrenia spreads confusion and can lead to misunderstanding and stigma. Schizophrenia is a chronic brain disorder that affects how a person thinks, feels, and perceives reality. The core symptoms include hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thinking, and problems with motivation or emotion. Hallucinations often involve hearing voices that other people do not hear. Delusions are fixed false beliefs, such as thinking the government is watching through the television. These experiences can make it hard for someone to tell what is real. People with schizophrenia may also have trouble organizing their thoughts or speaking clearly. They might start a sentence and then switch topics in a way that is hard for others to follow. Some may seem emotionally flat or lose interest in daily activities. They may withdraw from friends or family and become less responsive to the world around them. Now consider what dissociative identity disorder involves. DID was once called multiple personality disorder. It is a condition where a person has two or more distinct identities or personality states. Each identity may have its own name, voice, memories, or way of seeing the world. These identities may take control of the person at different times. A person with DID may lose time or not remember things one identity did while in control. DID is linked to severe early trauma, such as abuse in childhood. It is a way the mind copes with pain by splitting off different parts of the self. These two disorders, schizophrenia and DID, do not share the same symptoms. A person with schizophrenia does not switch between personalities. They may hear voices, but those voices are not identities living inside them. They are hallucinations coming from their mind, but experienced as external. These voices can be frightening, critical, or commanding. Sometimes, the person hears a running commentary on their actions. The voices are a symptom of psychosis, not dissociation. Let's look at an example. Imagine a man named Marcus who has schizophrenia. He hears a voice that tells him he is being followed. He believes that strangers in public places are spying on him. He starts to avoid grocery stores because he thinks they are part of the trap. He does not have a second identity. He is not switching into another self. He is experiencing delusions and hallucinations caused by a break in how his brain processes reality. Now consider a woman named Sarah with dissociative identity disorder. She has an identity named Lily, who is outgoing, and another named Mark, who is protective and more aggressive. When Lily is in control, Sarah acts in ways she later does not remember. When Mark is in control, her posture, speech, and preferences change. She may not recall conversations or events that happened while another identity was present. This is not psychosis. This is dissociation, a disconnect between parts of the self. Confusing schizophrenia with DID makes it harder for people to get the right help. A doctor who assumes someone has DID when they really have schizophrenia may miss signs of psychosis and delay treatment. The reverse is also true. People with DID may be given antipsychotic medication they do not need if their symptoms are misunderstood. Accurate diagnosis matters because treatment for each condition is different. Schizophrenia is usually treated with antipsychotic medication, along with therapy and support for daily living. The goal is to reduce symptoms like hallucinations and delusions and help the person live as independently as possible. DID, on the other hand, is treated mainly through talk therapy that helps the person integrate their identities and process trauma. Medication might help with related symptoms like anxiety or depression, but not with the core features of dissociation. People with schizophrenia often face stigma because of public fear and misinformation. Movies and news stories may portray them as dangerous or unstable. The myth of split personalities adds to this fear. It suggests that someone with schizophrenia might suddenly become a different person without warning. In reality, Most people with schizophrenia are not violent and are more likely to be harmed by others than to harm anyone else. DID also carries stigma, often for similar reasons. Media often uses it as a plot twist or to explain strange behavior. This turns a complex and painful condition into entertainment. It makes people with DID seem unpredictable or untrustworthy, which is not fair or accurate. Understanding the difference between these disorders helps reduce fear and build empathy. It also helps people speak more accurately. Instead of saying split personality when someone changes their mood or opinion, we can say they are acting differently or seem confused. Language matters. Misusing mental health terms adds to misunderstanding. When someone hears voices, has trouble telling what is real, and withdraws from others, they may be dealing with schizophrenia. When someone loses time, acts in ways they do not remember, and describes feeling like more than one person, they may have DID. These patterns are not the same. Each condition deserves clear attention and care. Families, friends, teachers, and coworkers can help by learning the facts. They can support someone with schizophrenia by encouraging treatment, listening without judgment, and helping them stay connected to daily life. They can support someone with DID by creating safety, respecting boundaries, and understanding that healing takes time. Mental illness is complex. It does not fit into simple labels or dramatic stories. People with schizophrenia are not split. They are whole people living with a disorder that affects how they think and feel. People with DID are not broken. They are people whose minds responded to trauma in a way that helped them survive. Both deserve compassion, not confusion. Clear knowledge leads to better care, better support, and better outcomes. Myths may be easy to repeat, but facts help people heal. Knowing the difference between schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder is not just about being correct. It is about treating people with the understanding and respect they deserve. People often believe they can read body language like a book. A crossed arm means someone is closed off. A yawn means boredom. Avoiding eye contact means someone is lying. These ideas appear in books, interviews, and online videos. The promise is simple. If you know the signs, you'll know what someone is thinking. But human behavior is not that simple. Body language does offer clues, but it does not work like a secret code. The same gesture can mean different things in different contexts. Without knowing the situation, a person's background, and their usual behavior, it's easy to get it wrong. Body language includes all the ways we use our bodies to express ourselves without speaking. That means facial expressions, posture, hand movements, and even how close we stand to others. These signals can give information about how someone feels, but they are not always clear. A gesture that seems obvious may have more than one meaning. Someone folding their arms might be cold, tired, or simply comfortable that way. Assuming one meaning without asking or checking often leads to wrong conclusions. Take eye contact as an example. Many people believe that if someone avoids eye contact, they must be hiding something. But in truth, eye contact habits vary widely. Some people feel anxious under direct gaze and look away when they're thinking. Others come from cultures where looking someone in the eye is considered rude. A person on the autism spectrum may find eye contact uncomfortable, but still be completely honest. On the other hand, someone who maintains eye contact while speaking might seem confident, but still be lying. There's no reliable rule. Posture is another example. Standing tall with open shoulders is often seen as a sign of confidence. But someone in pain or someone who feels unwelcome may slump or close their posture just to feel safer. A teenager may cross their arms and look at the floor in a crowded room, not because they're angry or distant, but because they feel overwhelmed. Without knowing how that person usually behaves or what's happening around them, it's hard to know what the posture really means. Facial expressions also carry assumptions. People think a smile means happiness, a frown means anger, or a raised eyebrow means doubt, but faces move for many reasons. Some people smile when nervous. Others frown when concentrating. A person might raise an eyebrow out of habit, not suspicion. Small tics or expressions can come from fatigue, tension, or even just how a person's face is shaped. Misreading these signs can lead to false judgments. Micro-expressions, brief facial movements that happen quickly, are often described as signs of hidden emotion. Some people claim these can be used to tell when someone is lying or uncomfortable. But the science behind microexpressions is mixed. While trained observers might notice patterns, most people do not show clear signs of lying. Even professionals often guess wrong when they try to judge truth from lies based on expressions alone. Stress, fear, and pressure can all affect how someone looks, even if they're telling the truth. One reason body language is hard to read accurately is that it's deeply shaped by context. Context means the situation, the person's background, the relationship between people, and the environment. A person might sit quietly during a meeting, arms folded and face still. One observer might say the person is uninterested or upset. But if you learn that this person just had a long shift at work or has social anxiety, the behavior makes more sense. It's not about disengagement, it's about exhaustion or managing nerves. Culture plays a huge role too. In some countries, people show emotion openly. In others, they use subtle expressions and avoid loud displays. Gestures that mean one thing in one culture may mean something very different in another. Nodding the head usually means yes, but in some cultures it means no. Showing the soles of your feet, pointing you the finger, or standing close to someone all carry different meanings depending on where you are. Reading body language without understanding culture often leads to confusion. Individual habits matter just as much. Some people fidget often, even when relaxed. Others speak with their hands or shift in their seat when they think. If you assume every fidget means discomfort or every shift means deceit, you'll misread a lot of people. The most accurate reading of body language comes from knowing the person and watching how they act over time. A sudden change in behavior, like someone who's normally expressive becoming quiet, can tell you more than a single gesture out of context. Let's say you work with someone named Priya. She's usually calm and leans back in meetings. One day she leans forward, taps her fingers, and avoids eye contact. If you know Priya well, you may sense that something is wrong. Maybe she's anxious about a project or received bad news. But if you didn't know her usual behavior, you might misread her signals or ignore them. Knowing someone's baseline helps you understand when something has changed. Body language is useful when it supports what's being said or when it clearly contradicts it. If someone says they're fine but avoids your gaze, tenses their jaw, and clenches their hands, you might guess that something is off, but it's still just a guess. The best way to know is to ask and listen. Reading someone's behavior should never replace real communication. Making space for someone to explain their thoughts gives you better insight than guessing from posture or expression. Another challenge is that people often fake or manage their body language. In job interviews, people practice their handshake, smile, and posture. In public speaking, they may rehearse gestures. In high-stakes situations, people mask their true feelings to protect themselves. A person may smile to appear friendly, even if they feel awkward. They may sit still to look confident, even if they're unsure. When people control their expressions, body language gives less information. Even in therapy or interviews, where people may be more open, body language must be interpreted with care. A therapist might notice that a client looks down when discussing a certain topic. Rather than assume guilt or shame, they might say, "I noticed you looked away. Can you tell me what you were feeling in that moment?" The goal is not to decode, but to open a conversation. Body language is part of how humans communicate, but it's only one part. Words, tone of voice, timing, and context all matter too. People who rely only on body language often miss the full message. When you slow down, ask questions, and stay curious,
You get better information than any list of tells could offer. There is no universal body language. There are patterns and tendencies, but no rule that always applies. The idea of a hidden code you can crack at a glance is appealing, but not realistic. Reading people well takes time, context, and care. It means watching patterns, listening closely, and being ready to be wrong. It means staying open rather than assuming you know. Understanding people begins with humility, not confidence in cues.
Some people believe that introverts are antisocial. They think introverts dislike people, avoid conversations, or want to be left alone all the time. This idea shows up in casual talk, jokes, and even workplace settings. But it does not match reality. Introverts are not antisocial. Many enjoy being around others, value deep connections, and care about relationships. What makes them different is how they handle energy. Being around people can drain them. They need quiet time to recover. That is not the same as avoiding people or disliking social life. Introversion is a personality trait, not a disorder or flaw. It describes where someone gets their energy and how they respond to stimulation. Introverts feel more comfortable in calm settings. They often prefer smaller groups, quiet conversations, and meaningful talk. Being in loud, crowded, or fast-paced environments can wear them out faster than it does for extroverts. But this does not mean they cannot enjoy a party, a group event, or time with friends. It just means they might want to leave early or take breaks afterward. Imagine someone named Elena. She enjoys meeting her close friends for dinner once a week. She listens with care, shares her thoughts, and laughs at their stories. But after a few hours, she starts to feel tired. The noise and energy feel heavy. She does not leave because she dislikes her friends. She leaves because her mind and body need quiet. After a night out, she spends the next day reading or walking alone. That is how she recharges. For her, this pattern works. She has a social life that fits her needs. Now picture her coworker, Sam. He likes to eat lunch alone most days. Some coworkers think he is cold or unfriendly. But if they spoke with him one-on-one, they would find he's thoughtful and kind. He enjoys deep talk more than small talk. In meetings, he listens before he speaks. He doesn't jump in right away, but when he does, his ideas are well-formed. Sam is not antisocial. He is introverted. His quiet time helps him think clearly and respond with care. Being introverted is not the same as being shy. Shyness involves fear, often fear of judgment or rejection. Introversion is about energy. An introvert might feel confident speaking in public or leading a group, but still need time alone afterward to recover. A shy person might want to be around others but feel too anxious to join. The two traits can exist together, but they are not the same thing. Some introverts enjoy being social more than people assume. They might love hosting a book club, volunteering, or going on group hikes. The key is the kind of interaction and how much time they get to rest. An introvert might go to a weekend event, then spend the next few days staying quiet. They need that time to process and recharge. Without it, they feel tired or overwhelmed. People sometimes label introverts as rude or aloof. If someone turns down an invite or leaves early, others may take it personally. But for the introvert, it's not about rejection. It's about balance. Being around others takes effort, even if it's enjoyable. The introvert is not trying to offend. They are trying to protect their mental and emotional energy. When they get that space, they return to social settings with more presence and attention. At work, introverts often prefer quiet spaces where they can focus. Open offices or constant meetings can make them feel scattered or drained. They tend to do best with clear expectations and time to think before responding. This does not mean they can't work on teams or lead projects. In fact, many introverts lead well. They listen, reflect, and make careful decisions. They may not seek the spotlight, but they show strength through consistency and depth. In school, introverted students might not raise their hands often, but that doesn't mean they're not engaged. They may be thinking deeply about the topic or planning what to say. Some prefer writing over speaking, or small groups over full class discussions. Teachers who recognize these patterns can help by offering different ways to participate, such as written reflections or partner work. Introverts also value relationships. They often form deep, lasting bonds with friends, partners, and family. They may not want constant interaction, but they show care through listening, remembering details, and offering steady support. In a group, they may hang back at first, but when they speak, others often listen. Their quiet presence adds calm to busy spaces. One challenge for introverts is feeling misunderstood. If the world sees social behavior as a sign of value, introverts may feel pressured to act differently. They might feel guilty for skipping events or not speaking up right away. Over time, this pressure can lead to burnout or low self-worth. That's why it helps to name the trait and understand it. Introversion is not a weakness. It's a way of being. Like any trait, it brings both strengths and needs. Some introverts enjoy being with people, but prefer certain settings. A one-on-one talk at a quiet cafe feels better than a crowded room. A slow walk with a friend feels better than a loud party. The social desire is still there. It just has a different shape. When they get to choose how and when to connect, introverts thrive. They open up. They show humor, insight, and warmth. It also helps to remember that introversion exists on a scale. Some people are deeply introverted and need lots of time alone. Others are more flexible. They enjoy groups sometimes and solitude at other times. The same person may feel more social in one season of life and less in another. Context, mood, and stress all shape how social someone feels. The myth that introverts are antisocial does real harm. It makes people doubt themselves or push beyond their limits. It leads others to judge or dismiss those who act differently. In truth, introverts offer much to social spaces. They observe details others miss. They think before they speak. They bring focus, care, and stability to groups. Their quiet nature is not a sign of distance. It's often a sign of depth. Rather than asking introverts to be more social in the way others expect, we can learn to meet in the middle. We can invite but not pressure. We can ask, not assume. We can welcome different ways of connecting. When people feel free to show up as they are, introverted, extroverted, or anywhere in between, everyone benefits. People often think narcissists love themselves. They picture someone who stares in the mirror, talks about their achievements, and thinks they are better than everyone else. This idea shows up in jokes, social media, and even casual talk between friends. But the truth is more complex. People with narcissistic traits or narcissistic personality disorder may seem confident, but underneath that surface, there is often deep insecurity. The grandiosity, the need to be admired, and the lack of empathy are not signs of true self-love. They are signs of a fragile self trying to protect itself from shame, doubt, or fear. Narcissism exists on a spectrum. Some people show a few traits here and there. Others meet the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder. These people often present as confident, proud, or even arrogant. They may talk about their success, expect special treatment, or react badly to criticism. But these traits can cover up a weaker sense of self. When someone constantly needs praise or becomes angry when questioned, it may be because they are trying to hold together a shaky inner world. Take an example. James walks into a room and quickly makes himself the center of attention. He talks about his recent promotion, his expensive watch, and the time he met a celebrity. He interrupts others, shifts conversations back to himself, and acts like he knows more than anyone else. On the surface, it looks like he thinks highly of himself. But later, when someone questions one of his claims, he becomes cold and withdrawn. He complains that others don't respect him. He spends the evening sulking. What looked like pride was actually a shield. This pattern is common. People with narcissistic traits often need others to reflect back a certain image. They want to be seen as successful, special, or important. When others confirm this image, they feel good. But when someone challenges it, even gently, they may feel exposed or attacked. The response can be anger, denial, or retreat. This is not a sign of secure self-esteem. It is a sign of dependence on outside approval. Therapists often describe narcissistic people as having a false self and a real self. The false self is what they show the world: confident, powerful, charming. The real self is often hidden, even from themselves. It may feel weak, flawed, or not good enough. The false self becomes a way to survive in a world where the real self feels unsafe. This is not a conscious trick. It is a way the person has learned to cope. Some people with narcissistic traits grew up in environments where love was conditional. They were praised when they performed well, but ignored or criticized when they failed. They learned that being good enough meant being perfect or special. Over time, they developed a strong need to prove their worth. The result is a constant hunger for validation and a deep fear of being found out. Other people may have grown up in chaos or neglect. They may have learned to rely only on themselves and to see others as threats. In these cases, narcissism becomes a defense. If you believe you are better than others, it feels safer. If you push people away, you avoid disappointment. Again, the behavior is not about love. It is about protection. Narcissistic people often struggle with relationships. They may expect too much from others. They may become angry if a partner doesn't give enough attention. They may also struggle to see others as separate people with their own needs. This leads to conflict and distance. Underneath, there may be a fear of being left or of being unworthy. But instead of showing this, they may blame the other person or pull away. Imagine someone named Rachel. She starts dating someone new and seems very charming. She gives compliments, plans exciting dates, and tells her partner how special they are. But a few weeks in, she becomes critical. She says her partner doesn't dress well or isn't ambitious enough. When the partner brings this up, Rachel says they're too sensitive. If they pull away, she suddenly becomes warm again. This pattern keeps repeating. Rachel's shifts in behavior come from a need to control how she is seen. When she feels insecure, she becomes demanding or distant. When she feels safe, she becomes warm. The relationship becomes a way to regulate her fragile sense of self. People with narcissistic traits are not choosing to be difficult. They often do not see the full impact of their behavior. Many do not feel safe being vulnerable. If they were to admit doubt, shame, or fear, it would feel like collapse. Instead, they cling to a sense of control through image and status. But this often leaves them feeling empty or alone. This is why therapy can be hard for narcissistic people. At first, they may present as confident or even boastful. They may resist feedback or blame others. But over time, with patience and trust, some begin to explore the fears and wounds underneath. They start to question why they need to feel superior, why criticism feels like an attack, or why connection feels hard. As they begin to see these patterns, they can start to heal. Change is possible, but it takes time. It involves building a more stable sense of self, one that doesn't rely on being the best or being praised. It also means learning to see others as equals, not as mirrors or threats. For someone who has spent years hiding their fear under a mask of confidence, this can feel risky. But it also opens the door to more honest, meaningful relationships. Not every person with narcissistic traits will want or accept help. Some are not aware of the pain they cause or the pain they carry. But when people look past the myth of narcissists as people who love themselves too much, they may find a person who actually struggles with self-worth. This shift in view doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it does explain it. It shows that behind the grand image is often someone who feels deeply unsure of their value. Understanding this can lead to better choices in how to respond. Setting boundaries with narcissistic people is still important, but it can also help to know that their behavior is not about you. It's about them trying to protect themselves. When we stop believing that narcissists are full of love for themselves, we start to see the truth.
Many are full of fear.
A word psychopath often brings to mind violent criminals. People imagine serial killers, con artists, or ruthless leaders. Movies and crime shows reinforce this idea. In these stories, the psychopath is cold, dangerous, and clearly harmful. But this picture is not always accurate. Not everyone with psychopathic traits breaks the law. Many live among us undetected. Some even hold jobs, lead teams, or manage daily life without ever being arrested. Their behavior can cause harm, but not always in obvious or criminal ways. Psychopathy is a personality pattern. It includes traits like lack of empathy, shallow emotion, charm, and a need for control. Psychopaths often lie easily, feel little guilt, and see others as tools. But these traits can appear in many forms. Some people with psychopathy commit crimes, but others use these traits to succeed in social or work settings. They may avoid direct violence and stay within legal limits. A tool called the Hare Psychopathy Checklist helps researchers and clinicians measure psychopathic traits. It looks at behaviors and personality features, not just actions. It includes things like grandiosity, manipulativeness, impulsivity, and a lack of remorse. A person who scores high on this checklist may not be in prison. They may be running a company, working in politics, or even teaching in a classroom. They may never be arrested or charged with a crime. This is because psychopathy does not always lead to illegal behavior. It often leads to harm through control, deceit, or emotional abuse. Take an example. A man named Eric is a regional manager in a large company. He is confident, well-spoken, and knows how to impress his superiors. He often takes credit for other people's work. He lies when it suits him and rarely feels bad about hurting others. He flatters people to gain trust, then discards them when they are no longer useful. He avoids direct conflict when possible, but keeps power by playing people against each other. He has never committed a violent crime, and his behavior stays just within company rules. Still, his coworkers often feel confused, used, or afraid. This kind of behavior shows how psychopathy can exist in places far from crime scenes. People with psychopathic traits can learn how to control their actions when it benefits them. They may hide their coldness behind charm. They may appear calm in situations where others feel pressure. This ability to act normal makes them hard to detect. They are not always the loudest or most obvious person in the room. Sometimes they are the most agreeable until they get what they want. Some people refer to these individuals as successful psychopaths. They use the same traits seen in violent offenders, but direct them toward personal gain in legal or socially acceptable ways. They may be drawn to jobs that offer power, control, or the chance to manipulate. Fields like finance, law, politics, or even medicine can attract people with these traits. This does not mean everyone in those jobs is a psychopath, but it shows that psychopathy can appear in high-functioning roles. A person with these traits may make choices based on gain rather than ethics. If lying leads to success, they lie. If charm opens doors, they charm. They may not form deep bonds with others, but they know how to act interested. They may cheat, manipulate, or betray trust, but stay within the rules. Because they do not feel guilt or empathy in the usual way, they often do not see their actions as wrong. Not all people with psychopathic traits function well. Some struggle with impulse control or take risks that land them in trouble. Others may turn to crime, especially if their environment supports or rewards violence. But even among those who do commit crimes, not all are violent. Some engage in fraud, theft, or deceit rather than physical harm. Others lead or direct others to commit harm while keeping their own hands clean. Psychopathy is not the same as antisocial personality disorder, though they overlap. Antisocial personality disorder includes a pattern of disregard for rules and the rights of others, often with a history of criminal behavior. Psychopathy includes emotional and interpersonal traits, such as lack of guilt or empathy.
A person can have antisocial behavior without psychopathy or psychopathic traits without breaking laws. The overlap creates confusion, especially in public talk. Popular media often focuses on the extreme cases. Movies show psychopaths as killers or masterminds. This image makes people believe that all psychopaths are dangerous and violent. But real-life cases are more subtle. A person may damage others emotionally, ruin careers, or cause long-term stress without ever drawing police attention. This kind of harm is harder to measure, but still real. Understanding psychopathy as a pattern, not a label, helps. It allows room to see how the traits work in everyday life. It also helps explain why some people can cause harm without breaking the law. A boss who manipulates staff, a partner who lies with no remorse, or a friend who uses charm to get their way may all show these traits. Some researchers argue that society even rewards certain psychopathic traits. In competitive environments, people who take bold risks, act without fear, or hide emotion may rise faster. Their lack of guilt may make hard decisions easier. Their charm may attract followers, but the long-term cost often shows up in broken relationships, high staff turnover, or emotional fallout. People often ask whether psychopaths can change. Treatment is difficult. Traditional therapy relies on empathy and self-reflection, traits that psychopaths lack or fake. Some programs focus on behavior rather than emotion, aiming to reduce harmful actions rather than increase remorse. Results are mixed. Some individuals learn to manage their traits better. Others use therapy as a way to learn new ways to manipulate. Motivation matters, and many with high psychopathy scores do not see a problem with how they act. Not all people with these traits are unreachable, but support often focuses on boundaries and awareness rather than change. Teaching others how to recognize manipulation, set limits, and protect their well-being is part of the solution. This applies at work, at home, and in broader social settings. The myth that all psychopaths are criminals hides the broader truth. Many live in plain sight. Some cause harm without ever breaking laws. Others function well, but leave emotional damage behind. Seeing the full range of psychopathy helps people make sense of confusing behavior. It also makes space for better decisions, both personal and professional. Many people believe grief follows a set of stages. This idea comes mostly from the work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who proposed 5 stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. These stages have been used in books, classrooms, support groups, and even hospitals. They are often shown as a fixed sequence, like steps on a ladder. The belief is that people move through each stage, one after another, and reach acceptance at the end. But this model was never meant to be a rigid path. In reality, grief does not follow a single pattern. It is non-linear, unpredictable, and deeply personal. The 5 stages may describe some feelings people have, but not all people go through all of them. And even if they do, they rarely move through them in the same order or just once. Grief is a response to loss. The loss might be a person, a relationship, a job, a home, or a way of life. It touches the mind, the body, and behavior. It affects how people think, sleep, eat, and connect with others. Some people cry, some go numb. Some feel angry or guilty. Others feel tired, spaced out, or restless. Grief may come all at once or come in waves. Some days feel normal, others unbearable. No 2 people grieve in exactly the same way, even when they lose the same person. Consider 2 siblings who lose their father. The older one, Maria, feels numb at first. She handles the funeral arrangements, speaks at the service, and returns to work the next week. Months later, she begins having trouble sleeping and feels lost. The younger sibling, Joel, breaks down the day he hears the news. He cries every day for a month, then slowly starts to engage with friends again. He still feels sad, but says he's adjusting. Maria seems fine at first, then struggles. Joel struggles at first, then stabilizes.
Their grief does not follow the same track. It does not move through tidy stages. People may feel angry, but never deny the loss. They may accept the death, but still feel depressed. They may bargain weeks or years after the event. They may return to anger after feeling some peace. Grief often loops back on itself. A birthday, a psalm, or a smell can trigger a fresh wave of pain. Someone who felt done grieving may find themselves crying without warning. This does not mean they are going backwards. It means grief is still present, but in a different form. Some people feel relief after a loss, especially if someone suffered for a long time. Others feel guilt for things said or unsaid. Some withdraw from others. Some dive into work or routine. Some talk about their grief often. Others hold it in. None of these responses are wrong. They reflect how people cope and what the loss meant to them. A sudden death may feel different from one that came after a long illness. A strained relationship may bring up grief mixed with regret or confusion. A person who loses a partner after many years may grieve the future they imagined more than the past they lived. Grief can also show up in the body. Some people feel heaviness in their chest. Others get headaches, stomach pain, or fatigue. Some lose their appetite. Others eat more. These changes are normal. The body reacts to stress, and grief is one of the deepest forms of stress. It can also affect sleep, memory, and focus. A person may forget simple things, lose track of time, or feel like they are watching life from a distance. These symptoms do not mean something is wrong. They mean the person is adjusting to something hard. There is no timeline for grief. Some people feel intense pain for months or years. Others move through grief with fewer visible signs. The pain may grow quieter, but it does not disappear. It changes. Over time, people may find new ways to carry it. They may build a new routine, form new bonds, or find new meaning. But they do not erase the loss. Even years later, grief can return. This is not failure. It is a sign that the loss mattered. When people believe in fixed stages, they may judge themselves or others. They may say, "I should be past this by now," or "He's still angry, he's stuck." But grief is not a checklist. People move through it in their own way. Some revisit old feelings. Some skip over them. Some move forward in one part of life while struggling in another. The goal is not to finish grief. The goal is to live with it in a way that feels manageable. Therapists who work with grief do not push people to follow steps. They listen to how the loss has affected the person. They ask what has changed and what feels hard. They help people find ways to express feelings, rebuild routines, and feel less alone. Some people need help naming what they feel. Others need space to sit with silence. Some want to tell the story of the loss. Others do not. Support meets people where they are, not where a model says they should be. Even well-meaning friends may add pressure. They might say, "You need to move on," or "She wouldn't want you to be sad." These phrases are meant to help, but can feel like dismissal. A better approach is to ask how someone is doing and really listen. Grief does not need to be solved. It needs to be witnessed. When someone says, "This still hurts," the best reply may be, "I hear you. I'm here." Language matters. When we talk about grief as a personal, flexible process, we create space for people to heal in their own way. When we push stages or timelines, we may shut down what someone is truly feeling. The Kubler-Ross model has value. It gave people a way to talk about grief when few tools existed. But it is not a map. It is a list of possible experiences, not a path everyone walks. Grief is as unique as the person feeling it and the person lost. It does not follow rules. It moves in circles, spirals, and pauses. It stays quiet, then returns loud. It shows up in thoughts, dreams, and everyday tasks. It can feel like love with nowhere to go. And while it may soften, it does not always leave. That's not weakness. That's part of being human. Many people think reinforcement always means giving a reward, like praise or candy, and that punishment always means causing pain, like yelling or spanking. These ideas are common in parenting, school, and even animal training. But in behavioral psychology, reinforcement and punishment don't work that way. They are not based on how something feels, but on what it does to behavior. Reinforcement increases the chances a behavior will happen again. Punishment decreases it. Both reinforcement and punishment can be either positive or negative. In this context, positive and negative do not mean good or bad. They mean adding or removing something. Positive reinforcement means adding something after a behavior that makes that behavior more likely in the future. For example, a child cleans their room and gets a sticker. If that sticker makes them more likely to clean again, it's positive reinforcement. The sticker is added. The behavior goes up. That's all that matters. It doesn't have to feel like a big reward. It just has to increase the behavior. Negative reinforcement means taking something away to make a behavior more likely. It's not punishment. It's still reinforcement because it strengthens behavior. Say a person has a headache and takes medicine. The pain goes away. If they are more likely to take the medicine next time, the removal of pain reinforced the behavior. Something unpleasant was taken away. That's the negative part. But the behavior, taking medicine, increased. That makes it reinforcement. Now consider punishment. Positive punishment means adding something to reduce a behavior. If a student talks during a test and the teacher gives them an extra assignment and the student stops talking during tests, the extra work was positive punishment. Something was added. The behavior went down. That's what defines it. Again, it's not about how it feels, it's about the outcome. If the added thing doesn't reduce the behavior, it's not punishment in this framework. Negative punishment means taking something away to decrease behavior. For example, a teenager comes home late and loses car privileges for a week. If that makes them more likely to come home on time next time, the removal of the car is negative punishment. Something was taken away. The behavior decreased. That's all that matters for classification. These terms help clarify behavior change. They separate how something feels from what it does. A person might enjoy something that reduces their behavior, which would be punishment in the technical sense, or they might hate something that increases their behavior, which would be reinforcement. The effect on behavior is what counts. Let's use a dog training example. A dog sits on command and gets a treat. If sitting becomes more frequent, the treat is positive reinforcement. The trainer added something. The behavior increased. Now imagine the dog jumps on guests and the owner turns away and ignores the dog. If jumping decreases, that's negative punishment. The attention was removed. The behavior dropped. Sometimes people confuse negative reinforcement with punishment because of the word negative. But remember, reinforcement always strengthens behavior. Negative reinforcement removes something unpleasant. It's like a car that beeps until you fasten your seatbelt. The beeping stops when you buckle up. That removal of sound increases buckling behavior. The noise is unpleasant, but once it stops, the behavior is more likely to happen again. That's negative reinforcement. In classrooms, teachers use these principles often, even if they don't use the technical terms. A student raises their hand and the teacher gives praise. If hand raising increases, that's positive reinforcement. Another student shouts out and loses recess time. If shouting decreases, that's negative punishment. A third student finishes work early and gets to skip homework. If early completion increases, that's negative reinforcement. The homework was removed. The good behavior increased. In the workplace, managers may use positive reinforcement by giving bonuses or praise when tasks are done well. If those actions lead to more of the same behavior, they are reinforcement. If a worker is assigned a dull task after missing a deadline, and that leads them to meet deadlines more often, the dull task is positive punishment. It was added. The missed deadlines went down. People also use these patterns with each other. In relationships, if one partner shows affection and the other responds warmly, that can be positive reinforcement. If one partner gives the silent treatment and the other changes their behavior to avoid it, that's negative reinforcement. The unpleasant silence was removed. Again, it's not about whether the change feels fair or good.
It's about whether the behavior became more or less likely. Some strategies backfire when the person giving them misunderstands how they work. A parent might yell to stop a child from whining, but if the child continues or whines more, then the yelling isn't punishment. It might even be positive reinforcement if the child sees yelling as attention. The behavior increased, so technically it was reinforced. That's why observing outcomes is more useful than guessing based on emotion. Using reinforcement and punishment effectively means watching behavior closely. You look at what comes after a behavior and see whether the behavior increases or decreases. If it increases, reinforcement happened. If it decreases, punishment happened. You then ask, was something added or removed? That tells you whether it was positive or negative. This approach helps avoid assumptions. Just because someone looks happy after a response doesn't mean the behavior will increase. Just because they seem upset doesn't mean they won't repeat the action. Feelings and outcomes don't always match. That's why behavior analysis focuses on patterns over time, not single moments. Sometimes reinforcement or punishment happens without anyone planning it. A child whines in a store and the parent gives candy to quiet them. If whining increases next time, the candy was positive reinforcement. The parent might not have meant it that way, but the result matters more than the intention. The same thing happens with punishment. A teenager breaks a rule and loses privileges, but the rule breaking continues. The punishment failed to reduce behavior, so technically it wasn't punishment. Clear understanding of these terms helps in many areas: teaching, parenting, therapy, coaching, and leadership. It makes you think in terms of what works, not just what feels fair. It also helps adjust strategies when outcomes don't match goals. If you're trying to increase a behavior and it's not happening, then what you're doing isn't reinforcement. If you're trying to reduce a behavior and it keeps happening, then your punishment isn't working. Behavior doesn't change because someone feels shame, praise, or discomfort. It changes when the consequences of that behavior lead to more or less of it over time. Reinforcement and punishment describe those effects, not moral judgments or emotional reactions. That clarity makes it easier to create lasting behavior change. Some people think trauma can be erased. They imagine that if you talk about it enough or do the right kind of therapy, the memory will vanish. They expect that once you heal, the trauma is gone, as if it never happened. This belief is common, but it is not how trauma works. You cannot erase trauma. You can't delete what the brain and body have lived through. But you can change your relationship to it. You can reprocess it. You can reduce how much it affects you. You can move forward without letting it control your life. But you cannot make it disappear. Trauma is not just a memory. It's an experience stored in both the mind and the body. When someone goes through trauma, their brain and nervous system react quickly. The body may go into fight, flight, freeze, or collapse. These are survival responses. They happen automatically. The brain stores the event in a way that is different from regular memories. It may stay stuck, vivid, or feel like it's happening again, even years later. That's why a smell, sound, or even a facial expression can trigger a reaction. The event may be over, but the body still remembers. Some therapies help people reprocess trauma. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR, is one example. In EMDR, people recall traumatic events while engaging in a structured task, such as following a moving light or tapping their hands. This helps the brain process the memory differently. The memory becomes less intense, less vivid, and less emotionally charged. It no longer hijacks the person, but the memory is still there. It is not erased, it is simply changed. Other therapies use different paths. Some focus on the body. Somatic therapy pays attention to physical sensations during trauma recall. It helps people notice tightness, numbness, or heat, and release stored tension. This can lower the body's stress reaction and help a person feel more in control. But again, the goal is not to erase trauma.
is to give the body new ways to respond. Cognitive approaches also help. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, helps people notice the thoughts connected to trauma and test them. For example, a person who was hurt might believe they are weak or to blame. CBT helps examine those beliefs and shift them. The memory stays, but the meaning around it changes. The person learns they are not weak, they survived. They were not to blame, they were harmed. The story becomes part of the past instead of controlling the present. Trauma often involves loss of control. During the event, the person may have felt powerless, trapped, or helpless. Afterward, they may relive those feelings again and again. The brain struggles to file the memory away because it still feels unsafe. That's why flashbacks happen. That's why people avoid reminders or shut down. Reprocessing trauma means helping the brain understand that the event is over, that the person survived, that they are safe now. It doesn't erase the past, but it helps anchor the person in the present. Some people feel frustrated when the trauma doesn't go away. They say, "I've been in therapy for years. Why is this still here?" That frustration makes sense. Trauma takes time. It doesn't move in a straight line. Some days feel better. Other days feel like a step back. A person might think they've healed, only to be triggered again by something unexpected. This does not mean failure. It means the nervous system is still learning. Healing is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process. People often ask if it's better to forget. If a painful memory could be removed, would that be a kind of relief? Some movies play with this idea, erasing memories, starting fresh. But memories, even painful ones, carry meaning. They show what a person has lived through. They shape who they are. Trying to erase trauma can actually make it harder to heal. Avoiding it, pushing it away, or pretending it never happened can keep it stuck. Facing it, processing it, and learning how to live with it often brings more relief in the long run. Consider someone named Daniel. He was in a car crash 2 years ago. Since then, he avoids driving. He flinches at the sound of tires screeching. At night, he dreams of the crash. During the day, he feels on edge. He wants the memory gone. He starts therapy and works through the event, step by step. He talks about the fear. He names what he saw and felt. He learns breathing techniques to calm his body. Months later, the crash still happened. He still remembers it, but he can drive again. He sleeps better. His body no longer panics at every loud sound. The trauma is still there, but it has changed. This kind of change is possible for many people, but it looks different for each person. Some process trauma quickly, others take years. Some find healing through talking. Others need art, music, or movement. Some need medication to support them. Others need group support or spiritual practices. There is no single path. What matters is finding what helps, not erasing the past. Trauma is often linked to shame. People blame themselves for how they reacted. They say, "I froze, I should have run," or "I let it happen, I should have fought." These beliefs are powerful. They can make healing harder, but they are not true. The body responds to threat in the way it knows best. Freezing is not weakness. It is survival. Part of healing is understanding that trauma reactions are not character flaws. They are the body's attempt to stay alive. Sometimes people say, "But I want to feel normal again." What they often mean is they want to feel safe. They want to feel joy, trust others, or believe in the future. These goals are possible. Trauma does not take away the chance to live a full life, but it may change how a person sees the world. Some things may always feel different. That does not mean broken. It means changed. Grief often lives alongside trauma. A person may grieve what they lost: safety, time, innocence, trust. That grief deserves space. It cannot be skipped. It also cannot be erased. It is part of the healing. The belief that trauma can be erased puts pressure on survivors. It suggests they must reach a point where nothing hurts, where no memory remains. This sets them up to feel like failures when pain returns. It also pushes them to hide their symptoms, afraid of judgment. A better view says, you can still have hard days. You can still have memories, but you can build a life where trauma does not lead. You can carry the memory without it crushing you. You can feel pain without it stopping you. You can move forward without pretending it never happened. That is not erasing trauma. That is healing.